Quiet and please turn off your cell phones. We're going to get our forum underway here. I'm Marguerite Knight, and I'm a member of the Government and Public Affairs Committee of the Thibodaux Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Candidate Public Forum sponsored by the Lafourche and Thibodaux Chambers of Commerce. We're going to have a forum for candidates running for Louisiana State Senate District 2, 19, 20, and 21, Lafourche Parish Sheriff, and Lafourche Parish Council, Districts 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I will be your moderator for this evening, and would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and if you're a candidate that still has not signed in, you must sign in order to come to the podium. I want to, thank Lafourche Parish Government. I think our parish president, Mr. Archie Chassaw, is in here, and we thank you for the use of the council chambers. And a special thanks to everyone joining us here today, and especially the candidates who have chosen to run for public office. I want to recognize and introduce the leaders of both chambers, Mr. Lynn Kiger with Lafourche Chamber and Ms. Tammy Leday with the Thibodaux Chamber. Here's how tonight's process will work. Candidates will rotate answering first in alphabetical order according to your district. We will begin with a 1-minute opening statement preceded by a series of prepared questions where each candidate will have a 1-minute response time, concluding with a 1-minute closing statement. Responses will be timed. That's what the lights are in front of you, candidates. The green light will display when the timer begins, followed by a yellow light when there are 15 seconds remaining, ending when a red light is, the time is up. Brian Fail with the Thibodaux Chamber, who's our Government and Public Affairs Chair, will be our official timekeeper tonight. We ask that each of you please respect our time allotment. We begin this evening with the introduction of our candidates. Louisiana State Senate District 2, Mr. Chris Delpit. Oh, Chris is not here. Oh, Chris, okay. So District 2, Mr. Ed Price is not represented tonight. Louisiana State Senate District 19, Ms. Marilyn Belloc and Mr. Gregory Miller. Louisiana State Senate District 20, Mr. Dave Karskandon and Mr. Michael Big Mike Fessy. Louisiana State Senate District 21, Mr. Robert Allah, Mr. Henry Beau Lagrange, and Mr. Stephen Swiber. We're going to start off with opening statements, and we will go with Ms. Marilyn Belloc.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Belloc. I'm current councilwoman, St. Charles Parish. I've been there for the last 8 years, since 2015. Just to give you a little bit about me, I am also the at-large for the state of Louisiana police jury. I am also the vice chairman for the Veterans and Military Committee for the state of Louisiana. I sit on South Central Planning and Development Board. I also sit on the Louis Armstrong International New Orleans Airport Board. And just to give you a little bit more about what I'm doing, my platform, I will be tackling Risk Rating 2.0. I will also be tackling infrastructure. I believe we need to build back better. Economic opportunities, that's jobs. Also public safety, which is crime. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Greg Miller. I'm candidate for State Senate District 19. I want to recognize my wife, Amy Frimmer, is in the audience. Thank you for being here. I'm currently state representative for District 56, which is St. Charles and St. John. I've been rep for the last 3 terms. I currently serve as chair of civil law. Prior to that, I was chair of House and Governmental Affairs. I'm an attorney. I've practiced law mostly in the property-related fields, dealing with successions, estate administration, clearing up property titles. I also real estate investor and owner, so I'm familiar with our problems with insurance. That is one of the things that we need to get a handle on. I've also been an advocate for getting our levees built for this area, for the upper Barataria risk reduction system that's going to protect West Bank of St. Charles as well as upper Lafourche.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Louisiana State Senate District 20, Mr. Dave Karskagon.
Is it on?
Yes.
I'm Dave. I'm
No.
a believer in Jesus Christ.
Yours is not on. Would
Okay.
you-
I was born again February 12th, 1989. I'm happy to be here tonight. Anyway, I'm not a politician, and I'm interested in making progress and helping the communities and the peoples of our area to have encouragement. I have been a member of Community Bible Church for 34 years, founding member of Christian Citizens Against Child Abuse, Neglect, and Assault, group leader in Celebrate Recovery, Christ-Based 12 Steps, 23-year history, one-on-one sponsor, member of Circuit Rider, Motorcycle Ministries. My work history is Cutoff Sewing Center, Repstock Drilling Company, Middle East Service Company, 9 years in the Middle East.
Thank you so
Titus.
much. Your
bless.
1 minute. Thank you. Mr. Michael Big Mike Fessy.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming in this evening. I want to thank everyone for voting for me. I am your senator for District 20. When I was age 20, I went in business for myself as a home builder. And as a home builder, I learned a lot of things, how things tough were down here. And probably within 5 or 6 years of that, I understood a lot about finance and everything and what it takes to run a business. And later on, I was able to become an owner of Pipeline Construction and Maintenance. Pipeline Construction and Maintenance is now licensed in 24 states, and we go out of the state and bring the money back home. And that's what I think we need to do as a state senator. As a state senator, I'm on the Finance Committee, which is very important. I'm on the Insurance Committee and Natural Resource Committee. And on those committees, I've worked very hard to make sure we bring money back to our district. I want to thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. On to State Senate District 21, Mr. Robert Allaw.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thank you to the Chamber for putting this event on. My name is Robert Allen, and I'm running for State Senate District 21. I'm a sugarcane farmer, a maritime captain, and a commercial alligator hunter. My priority is making Louisiana a better place to work and live in. The reforms that are on the top of the list that I think we can get done are insurance reform, tax reform, tort reform, and education reform. My biggest motivating factor for running was watching my 2 sisters get educated here and leaving the state for better opportunities. I'll never fault someone for wanting to better their opportunities. I just believe with the amount of resources we have here, that those opportunities belong in Louisiana. Now, I've got 2 young girls at home, and I don't want to see them have to make the same decisions that my sisters had to make. That's why I work hard every day to make Louisiana more competitive, more attractive, and a better place to work, live, and do business in. Thank you.
Mr. Henry Beau Lagrange.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Henry Beau Lagrange. I'm a lifelong resident of Patterson, Louisiana. I'm a husband, father, and grandfather. My lovely wife of 41 years, the former Margaret Dragna of Morgan City, is here with me tonight. I have 3 grown children and 4 granddaughters, and a 5th granddaughter expecting at the end of January. I'm a graduate of Patterson High School, have a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from Louisiana State University. Recently retired from public service as the Chief Administrative Officer of St. Mary Parish government. I was fortunate to have 5 parish presidents who had the trust in me to serve in that capacity. And I look forward to serving the people of Senate District 21 as your public servant.
Mr. Stephen Swiber.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Stephen Swiber. I'm originally from Morgan City, Louisiana. Graduated Berwick High School. After that, I went off to Tulane University, where I achieved an undergraduate degree in political economy and a graduate degree of Master's of Management in Energy. After that, I moved back home to the district. I actually lived in Thibodaux for about 4 years, and now I've settled down in Gibson with my lovely wife, Olivia, who's a veterinarian. And I run my family's marine construction firm, Diamond Services in Morgan City. We run about 60 to 90 employees seasonally. I'm running for office because I believe that our state government has gotten way out of hand. They practice no fiscal responsibility. Our budget has doubled in the last 8 years. Our taxes are up 60%, but we're not seeing those results in our roads, in our schools, and in our communities. And I believe I'm the only candidate in this race with a plan to address the homeowners insurance crisis. I'm a business person, an avid conservationist, a volunteer, and I'm ready to take my public service to the next level if you'll let me. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our prepared questions. And the first question, what is the biggest problem facing Louisiana, and what are your plans to address it? And we will start with Mr. Gregory Miller.
Thank you. I think the biggest problem we have right now, the most acute problem we have in Louisiana, is our insurance crisis. And what do we need to do to address it? Some of the things we have done, we're trying to attract more companies. We created the fund to try to induce more companies to come in to write insurance. We need more competition, and that helps do it. Fortifying our homes and roofs. The Fortified Roof program was one of the things that we did this past legislative session to try to encourage people to do that and provide the insurance companies to have actuarially reduced premiums. We need to see other issues that we can do to encourage insurance companies to come into the state by having a system that we're not discouraging companies from coming in. We need to try to fix our litigation environment so that insurance companies don't feel like this is too much risk where they're losing money.
Thank you. Ms. Marilyn Belloc.
Yes. I believe the most important thing that we need to handle is like you said, our risk rating 2.0. The reason why, so I'm gonna make it simple for you. The reason why our insurance is so high is because our politicians that we have in office have not made the insurance companies bring their levels to the rate that it needs to be. Our rate levels are too high right now, and that's why our insurance is up. FEMA, St. Charles Parish was the first one to get in line to sue FEMA over this risk rating 2.0. Simply said, our risk is too high. Our insurance needs to come down. Our homeowners insurance and our flood insurance. Because we need to make it plain and simple for the people to understand what's going on. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Mr. Bezzi.
Thank you. As far as that goes on insurance, I'm on the insurance committee, so I've seen a lot of problems what we have. Our state is so litigious on certain rules and regulations our insurance companies have to face. So between the insurance companies and the population of Louisiana, we have way more lawsuits happening per population than almost any other state. So one of the things that we found out is that the more pressure we put on the insurance companies in making laws, it decreases it down, so we put it in more of attention for us just to have a few companies to go to. So we got to really come up with a whole new process on how we write homeowners insurance. Far as flood insurance by the federal government, one of the things I noticed is they only make you have flood insurance if you have a mortgage in a flood zone. What we need to do is get them to go ahead and say everybody needs to have flood insurance who has a mortgage, and that way you spread the risk out so much further that your premiums would probably go down to 1/10 of what it is.
Thank you. Mr. Carsko, Dawn?
That's me. I don't know about this mic. What we press, yes?
Press the...
The right side.
It's not lighting up, but that's okay. I'm lit up. Wow, we gotta think out of the box. We're gonna let these guys, these politicians, argue with or debate with insurance companies? Isn't it about we the people? We have power. When are we gonna unite and help these politicians get something done? We should boycott the insurance companies. We should self-insure ourselves. Where's that coming from? Oh my goodness. Freedom? Constitutional rights? Courage. We need courage. That's what we need. Wow. I would like to say a
Thank
prayer.
you. Thank you so much.
I'll say that prayer next time.
All right, thank you. Mr. LaGrange?
Thank you. Seems like we all agree that one of the top priorities is our insurance crisis, both homeowners and flood insurance. One of the things is to work with our new insurance commissioner and the governor's office to recruit more insurance companies into Louisiana, but also make sure that we have a framework and a structure in place that holds them accountable for their solvency, so that we don't have insurance companies declaring bankruptcy and then the states holding the claims through LIGA. As a former floodplain administrator, this risk rating 2.0 in flood insurance, as CEO of St. Mary Parish, we also joined the lawsuit against FEMA to explain risk rating 2.0 and how it's affecting our residents in flood hazard areas. And we will continue to support that effort in our congressional delegation to get these rates under control.
Mr. Swiber?
I agree that we have a major homeowners insurance crisis that needs to be solved immediately. The best time to solve the insurance crisis was actually 2 years ago when the legislature did nothing except to write big checks to the insurance companies. The next best time is this year, and you can check out my 4-point plan at backtothebayou.com. But I want to say our biggest issue is the overarching issue, which is our outmigration. We have Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, South Carolina, all getting more people as Louisiana's falling behind our peers in the Southeast and seeing people leave our state for the jobs and opportunities that are supposed to be here. I believe this is directly downstream of the only difference between us and them is that we have a state capital swamped by good old boy politics, cronyism, nepotism, and the Huey Long system. I think it's time that we send candidates to Baton Rouge who are capable of bringing about the transformational change we need before it's too late and we fall too far behind our neighbors in the South. Thank you.
Amen.
Mr. Arlan?
Yeah, I agree with most everybody up here that insurance is our #1 issue right now. It's not going to get solved by one thing in particular. You got to attack it from multiple angles. One would be attracting more businesses in, more insurance companies to write. And I don't just want to hand out. You know, we need an agreement in place that you can't just come down here and write during a period in which the state is doing a program. They need to stay, they need to sign agreements. The second thing is helping LA citizens become a more viable writer in Louisiana, getting them some funding to buy reinsurance and getting them actually competitive in the market. Stop losing our base. We're losing people that are buying insurance that are leaving the state. They're not buying anymore, and as people are paying off their homes, they're looking at it, and it's so expensive, a lot of people are taking the risk. If you don't have to have it for a mortgage, they're looking at it and working with the congressional delegation to make sure we have credit for all of our levies.
Thank you so much. On to our next question. As an elected official, what will you do to protect and restore our vital coastal region for the economic and environmental future of our state? And we start off with Big Mike Fessy.
Thank you. Well, being on Natural Resource Committee and working hard with CPRA, we've done a lot. The CPRA is funded by a lot of the money from the BP oil spill. And we've been taking that money, and the state has been putting money in with them and making sure that we revive our islands that have washed away and doing everything on our coast. So we're pushing real hard to make sure we can revitalize our barrier islands to help save some of the pressure coming in when a hurricane comes in. So we're also doing a lot of mitigation within all our marshes and everything else. And the money's being spent very wisely. A lot of the oil companies are also pitching in. And as Shell did, Shell gave Terrebonne Parish 4,000 acres to do some mitigation work in Terrebonne Parish. They've done a lot in Lafourche, and the oil companies are really helping us
Thank
trying
you.
to save our coast.
Thank you. Mr. Cosconol?
Which, this button in the middle? I went to Fletcher College, was invited with a card, invite card. And, I was the only one that showed up. They had all the people from Baton Rouge. Anyway, I like them. They're doing a great job. They're engineers. They're well educated. I believe all we're gonna do is slow it down. Might as well face reality. They say they're funded by PP money until well into 20, 2033. So I don't think there's any sweat for, worried about funding it. I think they're doing a great job. They have a booklet they give out.
Thank you so much. That mic, yeah, that mic does work. It just, the light doesn't come on, but we're going to make sure it's on.
I prefer standing and speaking with my voice.
Yep.
It's not allowed?
No, you can do as you
Okay,
want, but
thank
we'll
you.
also,
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you. And we'll move on. Mr. LaGrange?
Yes, our coastal situation here in Louisiana. We have worked with many state legislatures. CPRA has a wonderful 50-year master plan, updated every 5 years. They adopt an annual plan of which projects are projected to be funded, and we will continue to work to see that the funds are appropriated to continue to move forward with the protection of coastal Louisiana. And as we know, coastal Louisiana, this region is a huge economic engine for the state, so it's very important that we do that. In addition, we'll be looking to dedicate additional or new revenue streams, such as renewable energy revenue that may come to the state, and to dedicate that also to coastal protection restoration.
Mr. Swiber?
I'm so glad you asked this question. It's a major part of my campaign. Coastal restoration is what I do for a living. I also am happy to serve on the board of the Land Trust for Louisiana, a conservation organization that helps private landowners. So this is definitely an area that my campaign is highly focused on. I've worked for Ducks Unlimited building land outside of Neptune Pass. And I know that we have an opportunity here with one-time dollars from the BP oil spill, from congressional appropriations, and from state budget surpluses. But let me warn, this is a one-time opportunity. If we do not get it right and we do not create projects that build land into the future, we are going to spend those one-time dollars on projects that might just wash away again. And if we do that and we do not reverse the processes that are behind coastal land loss, we are going to spend those one-time dollars, watch those dollars wash back into the Gulf of Mexico, and lose our one opportunity to rebuild the coast. We need to be let nature do the work, use those natural processes. I love the Bayou Lafourche revitalization effort. I believe our bayous, our waterways are not drainage ditches, and we need to open our water bottoms to recreational access. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marilyn Belloc?
Yes. So, coastal restoration and protection, I believe it's an ongoing effort. It's going to take some time, it's going to take some commitment, and we're going to have to be dedicated to it, not just a one-time thing. So I believe this is the way that we can solve that problem. Again, I go back to ITEP. ITEP is industry taxes. If we charge our industries their fair share in taxes, we could use that extra money and put it towards our coastal restoration. We would have funds for a whole lot more if we charge industry the correct amount of money that they should be paying in their taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Ever since the Mississippi River was levied off, that's caused the sediment that was replenishing our coast and our marshes. It's been locked up and it's being washed into the Gulf. We need to continue to support, to reintroduce the sediment into our basins, into Mid-Barataria Basin, having the fresh water come in, especially the project through Bayou Lafourche. We need to have more of these type of diversions but we need to make sure that they are working and that they are building coastline and building land, because it comes at great cost to our fisheries and our fishermen. So we need to make sure that if it's building, that if we're going to be introducing these projects and introducing the water, we need to make sure it's building land. And those are the things that we have to continue to fund and support. Thank you.
Right. Louisiana's legal climate ranks as one of the worst in the nation. I am sorry, and you're there on my list, and I'm sorry. Thank you so much for correcting me.
You got it.
Mr. Alain.
Look, I fish out of Cocodrie. My place is on Redfish Street, all the way at the end. I've seen it firsthand. My place was destroyed by Ida. We rebuilt. But you can see immediately after a storm how much it can change the marsh. Coastal restoration is an ongoing and a constant project. I'd make sure that CPRA has the funds they need to combat that, as well as working with Nichols' new Coastal Center. Look, these coastal restoration dollars are going to get spent. I want to see them spent here. I want the money here, and I want the jobs to stay here. I'd also like to work with our congressional delegation to make sure that we're getting our fair share of the oil and gas revenues to help fund some of this. Not a 70-30 split like we're getting. Other states get 50-50. I'd also like to see other states chip in. We're draining all of their water and taking all of their sediment. I think everyone should pay their fair share to help us out where we're not spending our dollars doing it.
Thank you. And again, I'm sorry for that. All right, on to question number 3. Louisiana's legal climate ranks as one of the worst in the nation. Where do you stand on issues such as excessive litigation, jury threshold, and the pursuit of lawsuits against the energy industry? And we will start off with Mr. Stephen Swiber.
I greatly appreciate that. Look, we all agreed pretty much unanimously up here that homeowners insurance was the top issue in our state, and even though I said out-migration actually at the end. But we are also, homeowners insurance is high enough, but we're also, I believe, 4th in the country, if not top 3 for auto insurance rates. Everybody's brought up the flood insurance and all of the other issues that combine to really raise our cost of living here and make it unaffordable. I think tort reform, smart tort reform is absolutely a part of that building block to make sure that we're not, to tackle this crisis. Look, Florida did a study. They commissioned a study last year from their Senate bill that to get to the bottom of their homeowners insurance crisis. And out of $90 billion of claims, they found out that $8 billion actually went back into the households. The rest went to lawyers and litigation costs. So if they're able to curtail those costs, they can get their policies down 90%. That is the goal here in Louisiana, and that is part of my 4-point plan that you can find on my site. Out of time.
Mr. Alain.
Yeah, look, so I started my marine company from scratch. I built my first vessel. It was hard. I'll probably never build another one. But it was one of the hardest things I've had to do. And driving up and down 90, up and down 1, 308, all you see is billboards. And I feel it's personal when you see a boat on there. And you've taken the pride and you started a company, you've done everything right, and someone can just come in and target an industry. Big trucks, marine, the energy sector. You know, look, tort reform is needed because all those signs is a sign that says, do not come do business here. you're going to get sued. So I'm in full support of tort reform and getting some of that down to where we can attract more businesses here that are not afraid to come here and invest dollars in our community.
Mr. LaGrange?
Yeah, look, you know, I am a big supporter of tort reform. Quick story, my father had a small boat company in Morgan City several years ago, and I tell this story because I said it in federal court one day, and I was selected for jury duty, and the federal judge asked if I were myself if I were the plaintiff, would I want myself on the jury? And I said no, and he asked why, and I said because of trivial and frivolous lawsuits. And the judge was upset with me because he thought I was tainting the jury. And so, you know, ever since then, I've felt that we do need to reform tort, our lawsuits, Highway 90 corridor, as every other billboard is personal injury attorneys, and I'm prepared to do and work hard to pass some quality legislation to curb that issue.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. You know, we took a go at tort reform 3 years ago, and we made some big changes. We went down from to a lower jury trial threshold. Some people say it didn't go far enough. I think, one, we haven't seen the effects of what we've done before. However, I know a lot of people believe that it didn't go far enough. It's really difficult in our climate that we have a very litigious legal climate here with all of the billboards. We also have a much higher incidence of making claims for bodily injury per accident than anywhere else. So there are some changes that we need to continue to make, dealing with how we are able to process the claims, how we're able to discourage people from making frivolous claims, and maybe that is one of the areas that we can continue to do, dealing also with the collateral source rule to make it a little bit more stringent than we've done before. Thank you.
Ms. Belloc?
In Louisiana, there has been instances where Entergy has faced legal challenges, customer complaints related to rate increases, billing practices, service quality. These cases that involve regulatory bodies, like in Louisiana, the Public Service Commission. I believe that when we handle all these illegal cases that come up to this Public Service Commission, Entergy, and we correct these things at the state level, you'll see a whole lot of this decreasing.
Mr. Koskadon?
Wow. There's lots of angles to come against this. It seems like the lawyers are, you know, blaming the defendants who are blaming the companies, and it seems like a vicious circle. It's like, there's nothing new under the sun. But I'm going to say that prayer right now because I believe we need it. Lord Father, Jesus, God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as we would have it, trusting that he will make all things right if we surrender to his will, so that we may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. We're going to have to make some sacrifices. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fazy?
Thank you. The lawyers was able to advertise. I remember it was passed back when I was probably 10, 11 years old, and my dad said that's going to be the worst thing that ever happened to this state. And I guess what? It has proved to be correct. We must change the litigious atmosphere in our state. Our businesses are leaving. We're trying to get business back. We're trying to grow everything. I've worked hard in trying to help promote changes in our litigious atmosphere, such as our legacy lawsuit. We're suing all companies who feed us. I've tried every year for 4 years in a row to get it out of committee, but I have too many lawyers on the committee that vote against me every time. So until we change that, we're going to keep fighting this. So what we need to do is make sure we get the right people in office to give us a hand to make sure we can change this litigious atmosphere, because it's ruining our state. Thank you.
Louisiana climbed 5 spots from 41.
I'm sorry, repeat that again.
I said Louisiana climbed 5 spots in education from 41 of 50 states, from pre-K to 12th grade. How can we continue this positive movement and continue to improve our education system? And we start off with Mr. Greg Miller.
Thank you. We need to keep working on it. We didn't get to 50 in the beginning all at once, so it's going to take a long time to keep climbing out. We've made an awful lot of changes. We need to continue to pay teachers and support personnel the money so that we can attract people that's one of their first choices to be able to be a teacher. And we need to be able to retain the experienced and most qualified teachers that we have. We also need to continue to give some options to families who are trapped in failing school systems, that give them an opportunity to be able to have the same quality education as those that are in good and well-funded school systems. We also need to give the school systems a little bit more flexibility than what we do. We need to give more flexibility to the school systems and not have this completely top-down approach to everything.
Ms. Belloc?
Thank you. So how do we improve our educational system? Right now, we all know that it's broken. And when it's broken, it seems to us that it's pretty hard to repair, but it isn't. People make it hard because people want to be in control of things. So people make it hard. So what we need to do is pay our teachers better. Our teachers need better pay. And when teachers get better pay, they perform better, just like us. When teachers are teachers of the year, teachers should be getting bonuses for teachers of the year. Not just to say a plaque on the wall, I'm the teacher of the year, but you get no reward for it. Also, vouchers that where kids can go from one school to another school, from public school to a private school. It betters our education. Thank you.
Mr. Carskadon?
I like what you said, sir, about the top down, pushing education upon there. But, what we have is a broken system. I agree with you, ma'am. I'm sorry, I forgot your name. But the thing is, we're not teaching to the challenges of today. It used to be back when kids were graduating in the 10th grade with college credits. Maybe we were over teaching. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Mr. Fessy?
Thank you. We have pushed real hard on the early childhood teaching and putting money in early childhood. The thing is children, till they're age 7, we can teach them good morals and everything. And what's happened, we need to work harder in doing that, because looking at different studies in different areas, that the students, if we can get them to learn good morals and good behavior and everything till age 7, then the learning process is a lot easier. And so now we're getting kids in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade still can't read. So we got to back up a little bit and make sure we get our early childhood children on the right track and get those in the right direction, because that's part of what's proven us moving up in this system. And in the last 4 years, I've made sure we funded that. And when it comes across me and the Finance Committee, we make sure we fund everything for the children learning at early ages. Thank you.
Mr. Allah?
I think the first thing we have to do when we know we have an education problem is admitting the problem. We have to stop moving the standards, stop moving the goalposts to meet statistics. We need schools and educators to be able to tell us, hey, we need help. There is a problem here, and that's the only way you can address a problem. You got to pay the teachers. We're below the Southern average. You have to get teachers paid competitive. We talked earlier about Louisiana being competitive. We're just not competitive there. You're not going to attract the talent and keep the talented teachers here without being above the Southern average. And making sure that families have choice, parents have the choice to send their kids to schools that are successful. I think the dollars should follow the child, and I think we need to expand our educational opportunities for all families.
Mr. LaGrange?
Yes. Continue investing in early childhood learning. That's a huge investment in our future of Louisiana, in our future education. So that's number one. Number two, I support teacher pay increase. We got to get the teacher pay up. I support making the stipend that was in this year's budget permanent for the teachers and support workers. Next thing is we need to give our students an opportunity to do track in high school, to come out of high school, some of them who are not intending on going to college, to have a skill that'll last them a lifetime and make a very good living, and it'll help our businesses and industries in the workforce. It's imperative that we continue to fund education and stop the top-down approach, policy change after policy change, from Baton Rouge coming into our schools.
Thank you so
and
much.
not letting the teachers teach.
Mr. Swiber?
Another great question, another critical policy area. I'm the proud son of a public school teacher and a product of public schools in Louisiana myself. I'm also proud to be endorsed by Louisiana Stand for Children, advocating for more equity and justice in our education system. I agree that we need early childhood education. We need to make sure that every kid can read before they enter the 4th grade. We cannot keep setting them up for failure, just passing them along. We can't keep failing them and sticking them and just flushing them through the system. We have to make sure that they're ready and that they can read before they start tackling the harder subjects, so they have that foundation. I do believe that the money should follow the child so that every kid can end up in a school that fits. I believe there's definitely room for this within the public education system. I do not think we need to dismantle the public education system or otherwise disadvantage it. I believe Arkansas just passed a transformational new school choice bill that also put them at the top of the South in teacher pay. I think we need to model our legislation after that plan and do that. And I also believe in paid apprenticeships for every high school student so that they can have they can enter ready for that first job, because that's the most important job.
Next question. All right.
Appreciate you.
Do you agree with Louisiana's current abortion laws? Why or why not? And what changes, if any, would you make? And we start that off with Mr. Fessy.
Thank you. Well, I'm pro-life, so I'm totally against abortion. You know, it's a tough question, it's a tough issue, but I just think that, you know, God has gifted us with having children, and we fought hard to get Louisiana on the list of stopping abortion. I believe that I've worked hard at it on pushing the legislation we have passed in the Senate and through the House, and the governor signed it. So I just continue on just like we're going, is my opinion, and that's about the best of it. Thank you.
Mr. Carskadon?
I'm against abortion because God is. He's pro-life. I wasn't always that way. But there comes a time in our lives where we have to make a decision. If we know enough about what God's telling us, if we hear the Holy Spirit, if we read His Word, we can use them back in the schools as well. But like Mike said, it's a tough issue, you know. You have to let the mother, and who's the responsible parties? The fathers, where's the fathers in this? I'm just raising questions right now. But there's morals God's put in the Ten Commandments. There's morals set in our hearts. And we need to stand up. We need to be who he wants us to be, not what we want
Thank
to
you.
be.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Mr. LaGrange?
Thank you. I want to make it clear, I am pro-life. I support the current laws in the state relative to banning abortion. I think the law is just fine like it is in our state. We look at life, we're taught that, we're all God's children. And, one of my 4 granddaughters is adopted. So without pro-life, by not having an abortion, I have a lovely, beautiful granddaughter who has lovely parents in her home. Thank you.
Mr. Swiber?
But first of all, I believe that the best step that was taken was the abolition of Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade was a decades-long tyranny, and its abolition allowed the voters of Louisiana to decide whether they wanted to have abortion in this state, and the people of this state spoke loud and clear in one overwhelming voice that this is a pro-life state that will continue to protect life. And as a state senator, I will absolutely advocate for continuing to protect life in the state of Louisiana. And then the next step, now that we can take this a step further, now that we have our abortion law in place, we need to get our maternal mortality rate under control. This is currently the most dangerous state in the nation to try to start a family for mothers. That is unacceptable. If we're going to ask people to start families and set down roots here, we need to make sure that this is a safe place to do so. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit to address this crisis, but our legislature hasn't even taken up the question in years. That is completely unacceptable, and I definitely want to introduce a slate of bills to get our mortality
Thank you.
crisis under control.
Mr. Arlen?
I'm 100% pro-life. I mentioned earlier that I've got 2 young daughters. By far, it's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life. Life is precious, and an infant's life is precious, and I can't even fathom something bad just happening to my kids. So I'm pro-life, and I support all the laws on the books. As a father, it's discouraging to see what's happening around the nation, and that's where I will be as 100% pro-life as your next state senator. Thank you.
Mrs. Belloc?
Yes, thank you. I've always been taught that when you know better, you do better. So the life of a young woman, she may not know better as a young woman, but as she grows, as she continues to mature, now that you know better, do better. So I'm pro-life. There are a lot of young women out here that don't know any better right now. So I believe the law needs to stay the same, but it needs to be tweaked. Rape and incest, it needs to be changed to help that young woman. Who wants to grow up not being loved, not being cared for because of a rape situation or incest? But I am pro-life. Once that young woman knows better, she does better. Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. I've got a 100% rating with Louisiana Right to Life, so there's no question I'm pro-life. I think there can be some clarifications in our current law to make sure that we're clear when the life of the mother is at issue, and also especially when there is a question as to viability of the fetus, so that we don't have a situation where someone is being discouraged from being able to get proper health care, when especially it's the danger to the life of the mother. So I think we can continue to make sure that we're able to have all of the information that if there has to be some changes, we need to look any of those changes. But I support the current law. We just need to make sure that the language is clear for the healthcare providers to be able to make those decisions without fear of prosecution.
Last question before we move to our opening statements. Do you think minimum wage should be increased in the state of Louisiana? Why or why not? And we start off with Mr. Robert Ola.
I do not think minimum wage should be increased. I think that at an entry-level job, you know, when we hire people on to my businesses, we start them out at minimum. And look, most businesses move them up quickly because in today's market, if you want to keep good people, you have to increase and increase to keep them. But I think for, you know, somebody who's cutting the grass over the summer, I think that's an acceptable rate, you know, for a 15, 16-year-old. Is that rate going to support a family? Absolutely not. That's why it's at the minimum. But I want to leave that opportunity for young kids to be able to get those opportunities at that starting pay and learn, like I learned, working on the farm, what a dollar's worth. I got paid nothing, probably below minimum wage when I started, but it instilled in me what a dollar is worth, and I think we need to leave that for kids.
Mr. LaGrange?
Thank you. Yeah, I was, you wouldn't believe what I was paid when I first started working as a young 13-year-old, as minimum wage was. But no, I think my experience as CAO with St. Mary Parish government and with the current minimum wage is we couldn't have a full staff departments to carry out the work of parish government. Our pay scale starts above what minimum wage is. So I would support a slight increase in minimum wage because in today's market and climate, you could not attract the workers, even the entry-level workers that you need to staff your businesses and where you have an opportunity to have them in-house and train them and sustain your business going forward.
Mr. Swiber?
I just want to remind folks that the real minimum wage is $0, and that's when you don't have a job. I think the free market sets the rates of labor, sets the prices of everything, and the market has already moved beyond the $7.25 starting wage. I don't know, at my own business, we don't have anybody working at minimum wage or anything even close to it, even for entry-level jobs. I don't know any business owners really who are hiring even unskilled labor for minimum wage at this time. Everything is at least $10, if not $15 an hour, whether that's line cooks at the fast food restaurants or I don't know if you've seen the sign outside of Buc-ee's. We don't have a Buc-ee's around here yet for whatever reason, but if you see that sign, no one's getting minimum wage at a Buc-ee's. And that's a sign that the market is responding to the tight labor market. I think that is the best mechanism. It's not going to come top down from the government. It comes from the small businesses trying to attract their labor force, and that's really what moves the minimum wage up. It's not the politicians in Baton Rouge.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Chris Delbert has joined us, and he is running for Louisiana State Senate District number 2, and you made it just in time for our last question. And it is, do you think minimum wage should be increased in the state of Louisiana? Why or why not?
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Chris Delpit. I feel minimum wage should be raised simply because the cost of living today. The cost of living today is astronomical. What was yesterday is no longer today. We need to start creating for a better future. People cannot exist off of $10 an hour. $15 to $17 an hour, I feel, will be a good minimum wage in the state of Louisiana at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I do not support the government increasing the minimum wage. I think the problem is that you have some markets, job markets, where the minimum wage is well past. I don't think you probably are going to be able to find workers in New Orleans to work for $7.25. You might not be able to find people to work for $15. I think it puts an undue a burden on areas, especially in rural areas, to be forced to compete at the same level of wage as more competitive job market areas where the pay is higher. So that is one of the problems I see with raising the minimum wage and having this mandatory one-size-fits-all for this part of the state versus a very rural northern part of the state, whereas you're lucky to be able to find the workers. So, thank you.
Mrs. Belloc?
Thank you. So I do believe that minimum wage should be increased. $7.25, it's impossible for anybody to live off of that. Nobody up here lives off of $7.25 an hour. And with that going forward, I owned a daycare for the last 25 years, and I started off paying my workers $7 an hour, and I realized it was impossible for them to maintain a quality of life. And that's just working at a child care facility, working at a restaurant. It's impossible to do that. We should not hold people to that. A pay increase is a must. It is an absolute must, especially if you want quality people to come, dependable people to come and work for you.
Mr. Carskadon?
Inflation, automatic increases. Who invented it? I don't know. Yes, I'm in favor of minimum wage increases. But more importantly, let's go back to education in our families and the schools and how to manage money. Does anybody ever save anymore? We live in a materialistic society. We buy, and we waste. And then we buy it from a foreign country. I rest his case.
May I say something?
No. You'll have an opportunity with your closing statement. Mr. Facey?
Thank you. As a business owner, I do not believe in raising the minimum wage. The minimum wage is not a living wage. It's a starting wage. It's to start our young people out to teach them how to work. If we raise minimum wage, there will be no more jobs for our young people that ended up being robots taking their place. Is that what we really want? Because I've been in business now over 40 years, and I can't even remember the last time I hired anybody by minimum wage. You get paid by what you earn, and the harder you work, the more money you make. If an employer sees you're doing a good job, you're not going to stay on minimum wage. So I'm totally against raising minimum wage. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our closing statements, and we will start with Mr. Chris Delpit. You have 1 minute for your closing statement.
I feel, being a United States Marine from 1976 to 1980, I served my country like many other people have. I feel that this country should honor their veterans the way we honored when we served. In my opinion, we need higher wages. We're not living in the 1940s anymore, 20s, 30s, even the 70s or 80s. Gasoline is no longer $1.87 a gallon. Inflation is killing us. As leaders, our creativity needs to come up. As leaders, we need to lead. We don't need to look the part, we need to be the part. Because I was always taught in the service, the troops is only as good as their leaders are. We need to show the American people that we care about them by not misusing them.
Thank you. Ms. Belloc?
Yes, thank you. So I want to go back to this minimum wage. It's not just kids that's working minimum wage jobs. It's adults with families that's working minimum wage jobs. That's why it needs to be increased. And I wanted to leave you with this. I am a military veteran as well. There's only two things that will make a person change. When we've been doing the same old thing, good old boy industry, nothing changes. Nothing changes. Only two things will make you change: inspiration or desperation. And right now, we're living in desperation. Things need to change here in Louisiana, for not only for our families, but all of your families. Let's make that change. I'm Marilyn Belloc. Vote number 51 on the ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you. Serving the last 12 years has been a great honor. I've proven myself, been able to get results and shown leadership. I've been able to get things done. I've sponsored and we created the Juvenile Justice District for the river parishes to provide for detention, pre-adjudication of juveniles, to deal with the crime problem. I sponsored the Becknell Survivor Notification Act to deal with requiring that the families of violent and sexual offenders be notified 60 days at least before the offenders are released from prison. I am ready to hit the ground running to work for Senate District 19, and I will be able to work with everyone on all sides to be able to get the solutions that we need, and I have delivered those proven results, and we will continue to deliver the proven results to move this state forward. Greg Miller, running for Senate District 19. Read more about me at gregmiller.org.
Thank you. Mr. Carskadon?
I'm Dave Carskadon, and I'm not a military veteran, but I have at least all of the disabilities that go along with a veteran.
May
I
I
love each and every one of y'all here. I'll do my best to represent y'all according to God's plan. Thank you.
Mr. Fazy?
Thank you. I want to thank everyone for electing me 4 years ago to District 20. The state has been through many challenges in the last 4 years. COVID, 2 years of the strongest hurricanes to ever cross our coast, now major inflation, big concerns, cost of our insurance, our flood insurance, our homeowners insurance, and the redistricting showed that my district lost 10,000 people in the last 10 years. So we need to retain our people and work hard and save all of the jobs that are being gone away from the legacy lawsuits and the oil companies not working here. I've been married here in the state for 43 years. I have 4 children and 12 grandchildren that I want to stay here in this state. So I'm working hard to make sure, as y'all District 20 Senator, working hard to make sure we can keep people back in the state and grow our economy. So please vote number 54, Big Mike Fazy. Thank you.
Mr. Allah?
First, I want to thank the chamber and the audience for a great event tonight. Next, I'd like to thank my opponents. Look, it takes a lot of guts to put your name on the ballot to offer yourself up for public service. And look, I want to use this position, this platform, to make Louisiana more competitive. I want to leave Louisiana better than when I found it. You know, I talk about these issues passionately because as a husband, a father, and an entrepreneur, I live them every day. We all know what's plaguing our state and plaguing the coast. I want to work to fix that. I want to see a better Louisiana, a brighter Louisiana, and I think we can do it. So I think I'm the best person for that job. I'm humbly asking for your vote and your support and your prayers. I'm Robert Allen. I'm running for State Senate District 21. Thank you.
Mr. LaGrange?
Thank you, and thank you to the chamber and to all of you here tonight who came out to listen to us speak tonight. You know, I had the trust of 5 parish presidents. I've developed, managed, administered 27 years the parish's annual budget of $35+ million. I feel like I'm the most experienced and qualified candidate in the Senate District 21 race. When I look at issues, I'm very diligent in evaluating issues and the pros and cons and making a good decision on those issues. As I mentioned, I recently retired from parish government, And, you know, one of the things that I feel that allowed me to be as successful was being accessible and responsive to the people. And that's what I would do in the best interest of the people of District 21 and the state of Louisiana.
Mr. Swiber.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for saving the best for last. No, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know these is not the most exciting things, but it's so important that we get these elections right and that you make an informed vote. So I thank everybody watching at home, everybody watching on social media. I apologize that I had to talk so fast. A minute's not enough time to get out my passion and my energy for these issues. I think the questions were absolutely perfect. I think we hit the nail on the head of most of the most important issues tonight. I hope that you take my quick talking as passion and not as confusing or a little bit too poor speaking. I believe that I hope that you'll all join me so that we can really write Louisiana's comeback story. I hope we all recognize that our government in Baton Rouge is not doing right by us at the moment. And I believe that I am the outsider. I'm a change candidate. I'm not a career politician. I don't want a career in politics. I think if you all join me and join us on the ballot, we can write that comeback story together. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank each of you for participating in our forum tonight. And you may now exit the stage. And we're going to take just a short break and get ready for the show. And the forum, and it appears that we only have one of the candidates here. And I will just ask, is Mr. Thomas Rodrigue here? Mr. Thomas Rodrigue. If not, we will continue on there. And if for those of you just joining us, the format will be as follows. The candidates will not rotate. It will just be one candidate. We will begin with a 1-minute opening statement preceded by a series of prepared questions where each candidate will have a 1-minute response time, concluded with a 1-minute closing statement. Responses will be timed by our official timekeeper, Mr. Brian Fail. The green light will begin when the time starts, followed by a yellow light when there are 15 seconds, and then a red light when time is up. And of course, we ask that you please respect our time. So opening statement, Mr. Craig Weber.
Good evening. Thank you to everyone who is here tonight. My name is Craig Weber. I'd like to say that the fundamental foundation of any government, federal, state, or local, has to be and is the safety and security of the population that we solve. Of course, there are many other necessary functions of government, but they're secondary to safety and security. If you don't feel safe, you're going to be subject to tyranny, vigilantism, revolution. I've been blessed many times to serve as the chief law enforcement officer of Lafourche Parish. Under the Louisiana Constitution, that's what the sheriff is, the chief law enforcement officer. I've been equally blessed to serve a wonderful population and to work with some of the finest public safety professionals that you'll ever meet anywhere that are gathered here in this room. I have a passion for justice, I have experience, and I welcome change, and I'd appreciate your support on the election October 14th.
U.S. News and World Report ranks Louisiana 50th of 50 states in terms of crime and corruption. What can we do here in Lafourche Parish to address our ever-increasing crime?
I think if U.S. News and World Report had evaluated Lafourche Parish individually, we'd probably rank number 1 or very close to the top. But many of the large urban sectors, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Shreveport, and I don't want to pick anyone out, but that's the truth, where the high crime, excessive crime rate exists. Our crime rate is substantially lower. It's lower because we live in a parish where people respect and abide by the law. They also respect their law enforcement officers. If you've noticed on a national level, the trend has been to be very suspect of police officers. There have been initiatives to defund the police. Police get no support. Because we have support, and because we have men and women who are vested into this community, who were raised here, who have their homes here, who have their children, and they were educated with here, they're not only protecting you, they're protecting themselves. And I think that's why we enjoy a low crime rate in Lafourche Parish.
So what is Lafourche Parish's most pressing law enforcement issue?
The most pressing issue, actually the long-standing pressing issue, obviously, is addiction, drug addiction, and narcotics. But a minute is not enough time to go into that. The upcoming pressing issue, quite candidly, is what we see with the proliferation of technology in the area of social media, in the area of cryptocurrency, in the area of digital evidence, and soon to be a big problem for us is going to be artificial intelligence. We are preparing for that. We know that it's coming. Historically, for you to be a crime victim, you had to have proximity to the person who was going to perpetrate a crime against you. If they were going to take your money, you had to break into your house, or they had to hit you over the head or take your wallet. We no longer need proximity. We see people getting scammed, getting taken advantage of, being manipulated and violated in ways that we can never imagine. And I think artificial intelligence is going to be something that we have not begun to understand the significance of.
There's current judicial movement to reduce incarceration. What are your thoughts on the issue?
I think incarceration needs to be smart incarceration. The world has been incarcerating for thousands of years. If you read your Bible, as Mr. Gentleman was talking about, you'll see that there were jails and prisoners 2,000 years ago. We have not yet been able to eliminate crime simply through incarceration. So smart incarceration, making sure the punishment fits the crime, but using that opportunity when you have a captive audience to identify the needs and the risk associated with their criminal behavior, and then trying to implement intervention strategies that change recidivism or reduce crime. It only makes simple logical sense to focus on known offenders. If you can take a person who has a record as long as your arm, who's offended 20 or 30 times, and they'll only offend 1 or 2 more times, then you're reducing crime. So I believe incarceration with the right programs and recognition is the answer to a comprehensive crime prevention strategy.
In our current criminal justice system, what reforms are still needed?
I think we really have to focus on putting money into the indigent defense system. And I know it might sound a little bit contradictory coming from me, but all of us are protected by the rights of the Constitution. And if our rights are, if we're not represented, or if we don't have adequate funding to represent people who are accused with crimes, then we all stand the possibility or the probability of having our rights violated. So I think it's been a long-standing problem, getting cases prosecuted in an orderly time, in a timely fashion, because if there's a lack of money to support indigent defenders, people will linger in prison long beyond the time they need to and end up taking pleas simply to get out of prison. So I would say one of the reforms that's necessary is to focus on a balanced criminal justice system from all sides.
Well, speaking of budgets, are there any opportunities to create revenues for the Sheriff's Department other than additional millages or sales tax increases?
Sheriffs in Louisiana stand in a unique position. We are an independent unit of government. We have the ability to buy and sell property to keep self-generated revenues. One of the ways that we have tried to minimize the impact of the cost of incarceration is by working with the state government, the Department of Corrections, and the Bureau of Prisons and the U.S. Marshals. Our facility, we have a state-of-the-art, wonderful jail facility that the voters supported, and it has met every expectation. It serves our local population, but we have residual capacity. And when the state or federal government need those beds, we can lease those beds, if you will, to them, and we can receive revenue. I'll give you a quick example. We get $75 per day for every person that the U.S. Marshal Services sends to our jail. It doesn't cost us $75 a day. We use that money to help subsidize the cost of running the jail and reduce the impact of taxation on the citizens that we serve.
What are your views with our current juvenile justice system?
I heard one of the Senate candidates make mention of sponsoring a bill to expand juvenile incarceration. As you may recall, several years ago, the legislature changed the law so that 17-year-olds are juveniles and tried as juveniles. Historically, they were tried as adults. I don't want to get into the merits of that, but I want to say that it has resulted in so many more people who would historically have gone to an adult jail where they probably didn't belong unless they were a great serious offender, now have to go into the juvenile system, and there's just not enough infrastructure to support that. Here in Lafourche Parish, we're constantly playing whack-a-mole with the Juvenile Justice Center. We're going to let this one out, and we're going to let this one in, and we're going to put this one on an ankle bracelet, and we're just going to give this one a citation. So we really, Louisiana as a state, needs to focus on finding the adequate, not just detention beds, but intervention beds and strategies to work within the juvenile justice system.
Opioid and drug addictions have already been mentioned, but it continues to grow throughout the country. Any plans to address or any changes for Lafourche Parish?
I didn't hear the beginning of the question.
Opioid and drug addiction.
Yes, opioid and drug addiction are a crisis across this country, and they're destroying lives and killing people on a daily basis. We carry Narcan in our cars and on average revive people who are overdosing 2 to 3 times per week. Last year, I think we had 18 or so overdoses where people actually died. We are focused on the drug court as an alternative to helping people with addiction. That's been a long-standing asset that Lafourche Parish has and our office supports. But just recently, we applied for and received a 3-year, $1 million federal grant to implement something we call comprehensive opioid prevention efforts. And we have 2 people that are hired. One person, an employee, a full-time employee, goes to everyone who has been revived from a near-death overdose, meets with them and their family, and uses that as an inflection point to see if they can be convinced to seek treatment.
Are the Lafourche Parish deputies, I mean, they are yours, adequately trained to assist individuals with mental illnesses? And what type of training is still needed?
Yes, I'm proud to tell you that we for several years now have been using what's called the Nashville model on intervention. And it's able to recognize when someone is going through a mental health crisis and not to respond to them as you historically would respond to someone whom you don't understand why they're reacting or not reacting. How come they're not obeying verbal commands? Not only are all of our deputies trained in that intervention, so are our jail officers. And it's made a big difference in each time that we utilize that correctly. And sometimes it's a diversion. You know, you don't always have to arrest someone for some minor infraction if you can see that they're in crisis and you can assist them in getting to the hospital. And not only do we assist the individuals, we assist the families on a daily basis. There's hardly a day or a week that goes by that we're not at a residence where families are struggling with one of their loved ones, and we're assisting them into getting them committed for a civil commitment for evaluation.
Our children are our most precious assets, and the Sheriff's Office is charged with the protection and service to all. Do you feel as if our Sheriff's Office and security services are adequate for all of our school children?
I would love to see, and I think we're moving towards, at some point, a school resource officer in every school. But statistically, if you look at where Lafourche is, we have 21 officers dedicated to school resource in their programs. Every high school, every middle school has a dedicated school resource officer. They constantly train, and they go to seminars for updates and work closely with our crisis management unit. So we are light years ahead. I know there was an initiative in the legislature to put an SRO in every school, and there are parishes that maybe have 1 or 2 or 3, and they just could not, they would never be able to find enough people and afford the cost of school resource officers. So we work hand in glove with our school system. The superintendent and I talk regularly, We have a great school board, and they support any kind of security initiative that we bring forward.
And that, the SROs are paid for by the school system or the sheriff, or do y'all both?
Yeah, we share the cost.
Share the
Yeah, we
cost.
share the cost. It's close to about a 60-40. The school board pays about 60%, and we cover about 40% of that cost.
Thank you. All right. Do you believe that volunteer and community service is a necessary commitment for persons holding public office? What forms of volunteer on our community services are you involved in?
I have been with the Rotary Club for many, many years and support efforts within our Rotary Club to volunteer. I attend functions routinely and offer to assist in any way that I can. 2 weeks ago, I was in the city of Thibodaux downtown helping clean up downtown Thibodaux as part of my daughter's school community service. And not only do I personally involve myself in events, I know when the events come up, I try to sponsor them. I make sure that the office brings resources, that we bring our light trailers, that we bring our command posts, that we go above and beyond what's asked of us to see if we can further enhance the safety of the people who are enjoying the events.
Well, believe it or not, that was the quickest form. But those were 10 questions. And we would love to, for you to give us your closing statement, and I promise we won't even time you.
Oh, great, thank you. I will tell you that I am a very honored, proud, and privileged man to have spent 3 decades in public service, in particular as a sheriff of Lafourche Parish. I'm proud of my heritage as a Lafourche Parish resident who grew up in Ward 6 next to the Bayou Rompopont. I attended public school in Lafourche Parish and was fortunate enough to receive a scholarship to Nichols State University. My whole life, from the age of 18, has been devoted to public service, from a Thibodaux police officer to Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Deputy to a Louisiana State Police Trooper, and finally to the job that I've always aspired to, that being the Sheriff of Lafourche Parish. In the back of the room, I have my 2 beautiful sisters and my wonderful, beautiful 5-year-old daughter. And I am motivated to leave to her the wonderful Lafourche Parish that my parents and grandparents and ancestors left to me. And I have a passion for justice. I'm always eager to embrace new ideas and new challenges like artificial intelligence and digital evidence and real-time crime centers. But I'm supported by some incredibly talented and gifted and dedicated people who would work for minimum wage if they had to, because they don't have to, but they would because they're so dedicated. So with that, I just close by thanking you for sponsoring this forum, to the chambers, to the people that are here. I appreciate you taking time on a Tuesday night to come out and be with us, a Monday night rather. To the people that are watching, I hope that you glean some information from not only from me, but from all of the candidates in helping you make your choice. And I'm very much optimistic and hopeful that I'll continue to serve in this capacity for at least 4 more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Now on to Lafourche Parish Council Forum. Thank y'all for waiting, and thank the audience for continuing to participate. We have races in Lafourche Parish Council District 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So let me thank each and every one of you for, agreeing to put yourself out there and to run for public service. It takes quite a commitment to even just run for a race. So thank you. All right, so this is how tonight's going to work. We're going to, for those of you just joining us, candidates will answer in rotating, starting with alphabetical order. We will begin with a 1-minute opening statement, preceded by a series of prepared questions with each candidate will have a 1-minute response time, concluding with a 1-minute closing statement. Responses will be timed by our official timekeeper, Mr. Brian Fail, sitting right in front of you. The green light will display when the time starts, followed by a yellow light when there are 15 seconds, then a red light when time is up. We ask you to please, candidates, to please respect our time allotment. As you can see, we have lots of participants. So we're going to start off with our opening statements for Lafourche Parish Council District 1, and this Mr. DJ Broomfield. Oh, and just a moment before I'll let him reset that. When you turn on your mic, which is the red light, I need each of you to turn it off when you're finished, and the reason being is that if there are 5 on, it starts muting everybody. So please turn it on, then turn it off. Thank you. Mr. Broomfield.
Thank you. I am Mr. DJ Broomfield, and I am the candidate for District 1.
Is that it for your opening
That's it. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Jerry Jones.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. My name is Jerry Jones. I'm a lifelong resident of Lafourche Parish. I graduated in 1971 from Thibodaux High School and attended Tuskegee University. I'm married to Deidre Williams Jones, the sunshine of my life, and together we have blended 7 children. I'm employed at Enterprise Product for 50 years, or going on 51. I am a member of the Allen Chapel AME Church, a founder and president of the Crew of Shaka, served as president for 28 years, and present today. With the help of the wonderful members, our organization provides a nice parade in the corner of a season. I served as chairman of the Lafourche Parish Council in 2009, vice chair in 2019, chairman of the Lafourche Parish Solid Waste Committee, where we saved the residents over $2 million. A member of the Tuskegee University Hunting Club for over 50 years. I have been a member of the Thibodaux JCs, the Kingsman Club of
Thank
Thibodaux.
you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
All right. Lafourche Parish Council District 4, Mr. Tommy Lassang.
My name is Tom Lasang. I consider this a job interview for the people to select who they want to serve them for the next 4 years in Council District 4. I want to talk my experience. I previously served as a councilman for District 4. I was parish administrator, I was finance director, I was human resource director, projects manager, risk manager, and legislative internal auditor. I graduated from Nicholls State, I attended Nicholls State, graduated from LSU, got a master's degree from LSU, a master's of science from Texas A&M, and a PhD from Florida State University. I've served as a member of the Thibodaux Chamber of Commerce on the board of directors and as an ambassador, the Thibodaux JCs, where I was awarded Outstanding Young Man of America. I've served in a licensed Louisiana real estate salesman and broker, and licensed general contractor.
Mr. Aaron Bo Melvin.
Good evening and thank you. I am originally from La Rose, live in Thibodaux, married a Thibodaux gal, Charlene Chasson, have 3 children. I'm a member of the Bowie Fire Department, a member, parishioner of St. Thomas Aquinas. I'm a current council member, proudly serving the citizens and my fellow residents of District 4. I went to E.D. White and Nicholls, and looking forward to hopefully serving y'all again. Thank you.
Lafourche Parish Council District Number 5, Mr. Greg Johnson.
Good evening. Thanks for being here today. My name is Greg Johnson. I'm a resident of Bayou Blue. I originally moved to this area about 10 years ago. I moved my office from Lafayette to New Orleans, and I wanted to find a place in the middle. And as I was doing research, I decided to move to Bayou Blue because it's just such a nice and wonderful and beautiful area. And I've gained a lot of knowledge of the area. I like all of the residents of the area, and we've become highly involved in the community. And I just want to say that I am running for this district because it's a wonderful area, and I'd like to bring it back to the standing of how it was when I first came.
Mr. James Jim Wendell.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Wendell. I'm the current District 5 councilman for Lafourche Parish. Two of the 4 years I served as vice chairman and chairman of the council. I'm a 19-year resident of Lafourche Parish. Lived across the street in Terrebonne Parish born and raised there, but I got to Lafourche as quick as I could. I'm an 18-year veteran of Lafourche Parish Sheriff's Office, where I volunteer quite a bit of time each month to support the community. Been involved with the Coteau and Bayou Blue Fire Departments as the EMS chief for 18 years, other community activities. Continue to plan on serving if allowed, and appreciate the support and the votes. Thank you.
Lafourche Parish Council District Number 6, Mr. Terry Araby.
Thank you, and thank the Chamber for putting this on for us. I'm a lifelong resident with my wife, Royetta, of Lafourche Parish. We were blessed with 4 kids that we raised in this parish, and we have 9 grandkids and 7 great-grandkids, all living in this parish, all attending parish schools, all attending recreational activities in our parish. I worked for Lafourche Parish government for 37 years, and now I am retired for the last 2 years. I ran for council when I had an opening seat 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and I won. And I've been on the council enjoying every bit of it and trying to get as much done in this district as we can. I look at District 6 first, and then I look at the parish as a whole. I sit here representing everybody. I'm here to make this parish a better place for our kids, a better place for our family to come here and enjoy Lafourche Parish. Thank you.
Mr. Shane Bond. The light doesn't
This is
come
the
on.
one that don't work? There we go. Shane Bond, born and raised Thibodaux, Louisiana. Moved to Raceland about 2.5 years ago following Ida. Not a career politician. I never wanted to be involved in politics. I see the parish as a whole. I know from when I was a little kid to now, I'm probably one of the youngest people sitting up here. I'm 26 years old. It's up to the younger generations, the older generations. I'm sorry to say, you're on your way out there. I got to look out for the future. I don't mean to be mean when I say that. It's just being honest. It takes generations to fix something that's broken, and that's a fact. I'd like to represent y'all. I'd like to fix what's broken in the parish. Everybody has their own opinions of what's broken. I don't have enough time to go into detail about all of that, but pleasure to be here. Appreciate y'all.
Mr. Jeremy Buckshot Bro.
Good evening. Thank you, Shane, for breaking ice there, making everybody laugh. My name's Jeremy Bro. I'm a lifelong resident of Gaines, Louisiana. I reside there with my wife and my 3 boys. I decided to run for parish council about 12 years ago, believe it or not, and it just wasn't the right time, and I realized that if I don't do it now, it will never be the right time. I feel like Shane feels, I feel like new, fresh ideas are needed in this parish for multiple reasons: tax reform, recreation, and also economic development. Thank you.
Lafourche Parish Council District Number 7, Mr. Armand Nooney Otam.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to thank the Chambers for putting this together. My name is Armand Nooney Otam. I am the proud husband over 30 years of Nikki LeBlanc. Today's her birthday, so happy birthday, Nikki. I'm also the father of Joseph, Allie, and Bud, grandfather of Juju, JJ, BB, and Brax. And I say that because all of them reside in this district. I've been able to hold the gavel for 4 years with the Lafourche Parish Council. I'm currently council chairman. Thankful I've had a supportive administration, both Mr. Jimmy Cantrell and Parish President Archie Chesson, as well as a supportive council, so I'm thankful. I'm also a proud and decorated combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps, having served as platoon sergeant of heavy machine guns. I'm also a lifetime member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, lifetime member of the Marine Corps League, and I believe strongly in volunteerism as a fire chief of Lockport Volunteer Fire Department for over 32 years as an active volunteer in our community. Thank you.
Mr. Barry Zarang.
Good evening, y'all. My name's Barry Zarang. I'm 62 years old. I started off life in Lafourche Parish. I moved to St. Charles Parish a few years. At 5 years old, I was doing drainage in my daddy's cane field. I know what drainage is all about. Second, I moved back to Lafourche in '76. I never did have the opportunity to run because I worked 8 years for the sheriff's office back then, and then I became a trucker, and I was over the road. Approximately in February, I decided to retire, and I think the best people put me up because they have no representation, and I'm here to start representing the parish and the people of District 7.
Lafourche Parish Council, District Number 8, Ms. Dylan Chassaw.
I am currently Councilwoman District 8, Ms. Chassaw. I'm married to Carl Chassaw, and together we have 6 children, 3 grandchildren. Forgive my voice, I had a rough weekend. I am running again for re-election because I enjoyed my last 4 years. I've done a lot for our community. I currently work at the Cutoff Youth Center. I've been there for 15 years. We just had our 57th Cutoff Youth Center Hurricane Festival. Just this past weekend, it was very successful. Real quick, thank you everybody that came out. I'm asking for everyone's support for another great 4 years. We've got a lot left to do. We've been recovering from Ida for the last 2 years, and we got progress yet to come. So thank you.
Mr. Carlton Guidry.
Hi, my name is Carlton Gidger. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here and thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on. Really appreciate you guys. I'm a lifelong resident of Lafourche Parish. I'm 46 years old. I've been involved with Lafourche Parish Fire District 3 for over 20 years, approximately 23 years. I was recently sitting on the Fire and Police Civil Service Board, which I resigned to run for this position. I plan on helping everybody out equally. If you call me, I will go and lay my eyes on it, and we will present it to the board. I appreciate y'all consideration in the upcoming election.
Mr. Devin Lewis.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber for hosting this event, giving not only myself but other candidates a platform to voice our opinions and introduce ourselves to the community at large. My name is Devin Lewis. I'm running for District 8 seat in Parish Council. I am a resident and born and raised in Larose, Louisiana. Went to South Lafourche High School, attended Tulane University, majoring in political science. I'm also a United States Marine Corps infantry veteran as well. I'm running for Parish Council because my father and mother, Mary and Wilbur Lewis, instilled into my sister and I, Keena, the obligation that we have to give back to the community and serve. I no longer wear the uniform, but I still want to serve my community and my country, and I believe I can do that. I want to be a voice for the parish as we rebuild and get back from the devastation that Ida causes and be a voice for the people and represent that district. Thank you.
Lafourche Parish Council District 9, Mr. Jake Sheremy.
Good evening. My name is Jake Sheremy. First, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting this on, as well as to thank my lovely wife, Renee, and my 2 children, Lane and Aiden, who are in the back. I appreciate y'all's support. Thank y'all very much. I'm a member of the Coastal Zone Management Board, member of the NRA. I'm a proud Knights of Columbus, and I'm also endorsed by the Lafourche Republican Parish Executive Committee. I'm here tonight to ask you for your support for Council in District 9. I'm a young person looking to make some bold changes. I respect the changes that have been made in the past and just feel that we need to move it in a little bit different direction. Thank you.
Mr. Daniel Lorraine.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Chamber and the audience for coming. My name is Daniel Lorraine. I'm running back for re-election for Lafourche Parish Councilman District 9. My wife is Loretta Lorraine. I have 2 daughters, the late Dodie Lorraine and Kelly Sheremy, married to Max Sheremy, and I have 2 wonderful grandkids, Joe and Maria. The boundaries from East 58th Street south all the way to the Texaco tanks, and on the west side on LA 1 is from West 106 south to the parish line, including Golometa. I have the experience, the knowledge, and the desire to keep serving. Let me continue to be the voice of South Lafourche. Early voting starts Saturday, September the 30th to October the 7th, LaRose Civic Center. Election day is October the 14th. My number is 82. One call, say two. God bless you.
Moving on to the questions, and we will start off with District Number 4. Mr. Melvin will be our first to answer. What is the most important issue facing our parish government, and what would you do to address this issue?
Well, locally, I would say drainage. I know that we've had a flight of folks moving from my hometown and further down from LaRose north or out of the parish or out of the state. And that's a big part of that's coastal erosion. Number two, insurance rates, and some things we can control and some we can't. So while we're still trying to deal with the Washington delegation with Senator Kennedy's folks, we met with them not long ago, it's just gut-wrenching to see what's happening. So again, we can't really control that except for phone calls, letters, and getting the force behind us. As far as drainage, I think we need to keep on designating certain areas. What I would like to see done is a major pump station put towards Lockport at the mouth of the Hollywood Canal, which would drain or lower the whole level of the 40 in that area and Hollywood. We could also maybe do something in Bayou Falls. Instead of having a pump station for every neighborhood, we have a few big ones.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Tommy Lasang.
Drainage has always been important. Drainage usually is administered by the administration. It's their job. It's the councils and the councilman's in his district to propose things and try and work with administrations to get things done and get the votes from the other councilmen if you want to put some. If you have the opportunity, you can put a drainage project in capital outlay with the support of the council, or the administration can put it in, and you can get it done. But more pressing right now, or equally as pressing, are taxes. Our tax revenues are down. Part of that's the storm, but part of it's the oil field. But a big thing is in the watercraft, the boats leaving the parish, because we are one of the highest tax parishes in one of the highest tax states in the United States. And it's not the assessor who's responsible for taxes. It's the council who passes the millages or approves them. And we just need to reduce taxes. Drainage, work with administration, and get it done. Thank you.
Mr. James Wendell.
The three issues that we face in District 5, the big issues are drainage, taxes, and communication. The parish has worked extensively over the last 4 years to get some specialty equipment to blow out culverts, to dig ditches in certain areas, the bigger borrow canals that we use for drainage. But District 5 is under primarily gravity drainage for 90% of the area. So we've improved in the subdivisions where we're getting the water out. We need better communications with the other government agencies that we're dealing with, because a lot of our water runs through other people's tributaries, whether it be the levee districts, the Corps of Engineers is involved heavily. So we need to make sure that these folks understand what our needs and desires are. And the third thing is the high taxes. The council pushed through some plans from administration during this last session that we got some things approved to lower some taxes and to make Lafourche a better and more economical place to live.
Mr. Greg Johnson.
I agree we have an issue with drainage and taxes, but also we have an issue with blighting properties in our community. We have such a beautiful and wonderful community. We have a lot of dilapidated properties that's in our community, and that's one of the main reasons I'm running, because we want to see these properties get cleaned up. Now, I understand that there's a process, and in everything you do, there's a process, but I want to be one of those people that's more concentrated on those issues and try to help deal with a lot of these blatant properties.
Mr. Bond.
Yes, I would say abandoned structures, better infrastructure. There's no businesses knocking down the door to come here. And that's just a fact. I believe Raceland as a community, we should be a bigger industrial complex than what we are. I believe we're the future, New Iberia, Lafayette area. I think that's where we should be at. Once again, everybody says drainage. I think if we would maintain the ditches and the tributaries, we wouldn't have all these issues. We pay our taxes and we want a representation, so let me represent y'all. Thank y'all.
Mr. Breaux.
We all know drainage is a huge issue in District 6, but also economic development. How do we utilize Highway 90 to invite more businesses to come into District 6? We are at the center of the parish. We should utilize that corridor to invite businesses to come because they could go north, south, east, and west by using Highway 90, and they could build their business, which will help create more jobs for our parish. We have no jobs currently in the central part of the parish for our residents.
Mr. Araby.
Drainage is very important for this parish, especially in Drainage District 6. We have been doing a lot of drainage work in District 6, cleaning out outfall canals. When I took off a couple of years ago, I sent in a bunch of requests for outfall ditches that needed to be cleaned, and the administration and Public Works Director did work with us, and we got them clean. And I have several other ones to get clean. We are in the process of building a brand new pump station for Butch Hill. We're fixing to go out on bid, hopefully in the near future with that. One in the Alydar community we're fixing to do, doing some repair work to one in the Gaines area. That's some drainage work we did back there. Tax reform, I think I'm a big supporter of tax reform. I think we have ways that we can cut taxes. We have to really study real hard and look at all the entities and see where we can maybe cut and save money. Economic development, I've been working very close with the economic development lady we have here now, the director, and trying to get business to come down here, mainly a grocery store in the central part of the parish. Thank you.
Mr. Zarang.
One of the biggest problems we have in my district is the drainage and the tall grass that Shady Park down the Bayou has, Shady Acres, and some back past 10th Street that nobody comes see. And we have ditches that go upgrade and not to a drainage point. We have a levee that needs to be open because it cuts off the other pump, and we have one pump pumping Lockport and Nolan Tubes and Chateau Estates, which everybody knows is an issue because they're all man-made and they all will break sooner or later.
Mr. Otan.
Yeah, can you repeat the question since we're so far down?
What is the most important issue facing our parish government, and what would you do to address it?
Thank you. So for parish government, as opposed to many are talking about their individual districts, I'll say that the rebuild since post-Ida and trying to work through GOSEP and FEMA along with the administration to rebuild and armor our infrastructure so we're not as vulnerable in future hurricanes. Most people don't see what goes on behind the scenes, although you can see all the blue tarps that are still out there and homes that are being demoed. We have people that are living in trailers, campers. So there's a lot of people that's living out there that are not living to code, which puts our resources strained if we have another such event. So we have to continue to push to get back to our code buildings, got to push to get our infrastructure armored, our levees protected, which thank goodness for the North Lafourche Levee District, they do have a good sales tax now. So we have a lot of things going on. But by far and large, this parish needs to rebuild post-Ida. Thank you.
Ms. Shassaw.
Yes. So we, like Nooney said, I'm going to piggyback on that because what we have been facing for the last 2 years is rebuilding back from Ida, and there's been a lot to rebuild in the lower Lafourche area. From a hospital to the library and the government building, we're rebuilding back there. Our drainage is an issue, but so are our levees, and we've lost a lot of marsh land that protects our levees. So to keep that levee strengthened, we need to build back our marshland as well. And to keep rebuilding, stay on top of the building codes, the homes that need to be taken care of that are blighted, and taking property values down. That work is just continuing, and we're not even close to being finished, but at least it's happening. Thank you.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes, like everyone else stated, drainage issues is a big thing. I get called on a daily basis to come and check out drainage issues. It's ongoing. I know I had to handle some drainage issues at my place, and brought it to the drainage board committee, and we finally got it done. Also, I'd like to see new businesses moving into the area. We need to do tax reform. A lot of these companies don't want to move in because of the taxes. We need to sit down as a whole and talk about it and see what we can do to get more businesses to come into the community.
Mr. Lewis?
So, yeah, well, I think I'm going to echo what everyone else had said, is that we do need to rebuild after Ida. Now, how do we do that, and what does that entail? It's definitely going to entail some economic development. As, again, a lot of people up here have said, we need to get more creative on our tax system. How are we going to get those monies? I don't think that people would mind being taxed as long as they can see what they're getting for those tax dollars, right? If I can see some type of benefit, then those taxes may not hurt as much, or may be more willing to do that. Again, we have people that's still living in FEMA trailers, 2 years later. We need to help and get those people back into their homes and work with the parish and the other surrounding parishes in that lawsuit against the federal government to find out what those codes are that FEMA is using, and explain to us why we're at these exorbitant rates. Thank you.
Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, it's always been roads, bridges, and drainage, especially in South Lafourche. The bridges are very important. We got hammered with Hurricane Ida, and nuisance abatement is a big problem. As far as the drainage, we never stopped digging canals. We never stopped. The problem we're facing is we got good equipment. It's finding people to work. But we still moving ahead. The drainage in South Lafourche is way better than it's ever been. And the roads are real good, including the roads of Golden Meadow. I was able to put them in the taxing district, in which they're the only municipality that's in a taxing district, and we were able to do $7 million of roads in the town of Golden Meadow. Plus, we're going to continue to do the best we can with what we have and move forward.
Mr. Sheremy?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So as a parish as a whole, as parish government, we need economic reform as well as tax reform. We need something for our kids to want to stay in Lafourche Parish, especially in District 9. We have nothing. We have nothing to keep them down. We also need our hospital rebuilt, and we also need our library redone. I know that current administration is currently working on it, and I will, as councilman, keep on pushing to make sure that it gets done.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, in District 1, the main problem is drainage. Drainage, derelict structure, crimes, and recreation. At the present time, right now, the District 1, that's the mobile pump station, is in progress, being built for $5 million. We improved the Layton pump station over at Layton for another $4 million on 2022. Recreation is high in our area. We was able to secure a grant, a state grant from the state for $5 billion for recreation in our Head Start program. Our Head Start program has came up from a low percentage to the very top of the list. Community action, providing a lot of service to people. CEAs have been committed between the pharmacy, the funeral homes.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
Mr. Broomfield?
Well, I don't find it ironic that Mr. Jones has said that it was absolutely the drainage, because I've had the opportunity to talk to quite a few people in the Marydale community in District 1 who had some questions raised and concerns about the drainage in their community. I've talked to a lot of people who complained about the ditches needing to be dredged, and also one of the other things that he said was crime. The crime in our communities are quite high. I have been serving the community for quite some time. There's been a lot of homicide in our communities. I'm the person they would contact because of ministry. that will go out there with balloon release and prayers and trying to talk to them about the crime that's in our community. The other thing is recreation, just as exactly what he said. The community is filled with young men, young girls who are very athletic, but our community doesn't have what we call a multi-purpose recreation center. And I think that just by communicating with the people.
Thank you so much, Mr. Broomfield. What do you see as opportunities for improvement in the current operations of the parish council and/or government? Mr. Greg Johnson.
Well, I think the number one issue of area of improvement is to communicate better with our state and federal partners, because a lot of the issues that we have in some of these districts requires communication with our state and federal partners, and I believe that we need to be consistent with our communication with them to help solve some of the problems in our areas.
Mr. Wendell?
Lafourche Parish as a whole, being the administration and the council, has grown by leaps and bounds over the last 4 years. We finally have a council and an administration that gets along. There's communication, there's cooperation. As Mr. Johnson mentioned, our partners outside of parish government, that's where we have issues. We have issues with the state highways. We have issues with outside drainage. We also have communication issues between residents and government officials. And I think it's very important that when a constituent calls you and says, I have an issue with the state highway, you just don't punt them off to the state. You explain who's responsible for what, whether it be the school board, the drainage districts, the state. It's one thing to advocate for people, but it's another thing to provide them the information and education so that they understand how processes go about and how to get things accomplished. So together as a team, we can definitely get it done. Thank you.
Mr. Breaux?
I think one of the biggest things we need is tax reform, and we need to talk about tax reform and how do we come together as a board, as the board to figure out how to, tax reform brings in more businesses. We need to make it attractive for businesses to be here. There's too many tax boards and boards that businesses have to meet with, and it causes issues, and it causes them not to want to come into the area. So we need to figure out how do we tackle that.
Mr. Araby?
I think communication is very important. Communicating with the administration, communicating with Public Works, communicating with our local officials is a way of trying to get things to take place. You got to better work together. I grant you, sometimes we don't agree with things that goes on, but hey, we move on. You know, I'm not here to agree with everything that takes place, but if it's a benefit for the parish, I will agree and support it. And that's number one, communicating with everybody.
Mr. Bond?
Communication is key. I will say that I find a lot of politicians are out of touch with the people they represent. I don't have a problem with council members talking between themselves about issues, but go into the public and get the public's opinion on things before y'all vote on it. I've seen numerous times where one will bring up something to vote on that wants it and then say no. Why are you bringing it up for if you're going to vote no on it? Communication is key, and that's all I have to say about that.
Mr. Otam?
Once again, can you read the question again, please?
What do you see as opportunities for improvement in the current operation of the parish council and/or government?
Okay, thank you for the question, for rereading the question. So from my perspective, I think networking is one of the most important facets of holding the position that you hold at that particular time. You've heard references to GOSEP, FEMA. Many you haven't heard of, such as mosquito control, DOTD. We've had the pleasure of meeting with the head of DOTD. We go to these conventions where we're able to network with the directors of some of the state agencies. And I think that the networking is probably the most important, because all we are is a resource center for the public as a council, as a legislative body. We do not do the executive work that's being referenced quite a bit up here. We are legislators. We need to be a resource center. The bigger we can create our network, the better off we'll be, so we can direct our constituents to the right avenue on how they can get their issues resolved. Thank you.
Mr. Zarang?
Well, in order to be a resource center for the public, you have to answer the phone calls and you have to recall them. And my issue, like I said before, what we need to do is get together as a person. We can't keep taxing. We can't keep taxing. People are running out. People are straining. I mean, what are we going to do? And bringing up Ida, everybody keeps bringing up Ida. Ida's 2 years ago. We have made no progress, well, hardly any progress in the last 2 years. If you won't believe me, I got pictures because people call me and talk to me to come see them, to see the issues they're having that nobody contacts them on.
Mr. Guidry.
Like they said in previous people that was talking, they said we need to have good communication. With lack of communication, we're not going to get anywhere. Everybody needs to work as one. When people call us out there to go see, we need to go see. We need to answer them. We are representing them. We need to go out there and lay our eyes on it. Bring it back to the board, see what needs to be done, what needs to be fixed. We also, like I said before, we need to bring businesses back. We need to get stuff for the children to do. A lot of this is, like they said, taxes are keeping these businesses out of here. We need to maybe revisit some of this to try to get taxes down to get more people in. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
So I'm a firm believer that there's always room for improvement. If you're not improving, you're regressing. That being the case, we hear taxes brought up a lot. According to the not last parish council meeting, but the parish council meeting back in August, we took in $38 million in ad valorem taxes, about $20 million in sales taxes. Now, how are we spending that money and being more efficient with it? And then communicating that back to the constituency and letting them know what they're getting for these dollars and where we can direct them, as Mr. Otan said, is that, having that open communication. Are we going back and talking to the constituency? Do they know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and where those dollars are being spent and why?
Ms. Shassaw?
Yes, so 4 years ago when our first debate here, or forum before when I was running, we all talked about tax reform. We just passed a tax reform vote in April, and we are working on it. We have been working on it. We are still working very well together with our parish administration, our council, in getting our area back in shape. And yes, Ida was 2 years ago, but there's still a lot of work that needs to get done to get us back where we were and to make it better. We have shopping centers we have to tear down because it was destroyed. It's hard to bring something back when you got to tear something down first to make it better. That's all I got to say about it.
Mr. Sheremy?
Yeah, so communication is always very important, but also transparency is also important to me. Let's shed a light on everything. Let's open the doors, let's open the books, and let's have an open discussion and decorum on everything. I sit on Coastal Zone Management Board, I sat on Fish and Game, as well as Housing Authority. And I feel that we need to have more open discussion with the local boards, and people need to start volunteering more on these boards. When y'all see vacancies, y'all go in and sign up, because that is a good way to get you more involved with the parish. That there are a lot of resources out there. I do feel that transparency is not say lacking, but it can definitely be improved upon.
Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, I would have to say that communications is the #1 issue. I'm a very vocal councilman, and I've been here a very long time. And it's all about communications. You win some and you lose some. The way I handle my business with the public, we turn in work orders. As they turn them in, that's how I take care of them. I don't cheat. I don't put nobody ahead of whatever. But if something is really needed for drainage or house flooding, then we're going to concentrate on getting that first. But it's all about communicating. And I can tell you this, the most important thing that a councilman has to face is answering the phone. Don't be scared to answer the phone. If somebody calls you, you call them back. They can't hit you. You're on the phone. Most people are nice. I got to tell you that. But the phone call is the most important thing as a councilman.
Thank you.
And I have been transparent
Thank you,
since I've
Mr.
been there.
Lorraine. Mr. Broomfield?
Well, I absolutely agree with the entire council, and I think communication, not just communicating, but be consistent with communicating. I think that the problem with our community is we're not communicating enough. We talk, but it's not consistent. So I really believe that communicating is the problem with government, our parish.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, communication is the #1 issue. And I serve on the council as Mr. Lorraine for many years. And 2022 present, it's been one of the most wonderful communication with this administration it ever had been. Our parish president goes out, he seeks funds, he networks, and he does a great job. I've been up to Washington with him, the Capitol in Baton Rouge, and we've been successful in doing the things we get. So communication, and if we work together, and this council works together, we are pretty good friends. We might not agree and vote on everything, but at the end of the day, we are together. This has been the best administration and the best council that the Lafourche Parish had in many years. Thank you.
Mr. Lassang?
Communication and taxes. A good example of this is they just say it had a tax, somebody mentioned tax restructuring. Well, it was a mild restructuring. The biggest component of it was giving up 7/10 sales tax, rededicating it. Now we have to make that up in the form of charging the residents, which is a tax, on the water bill to pick up the garbage. Every household in the parish is going to pay $250, $300 a year. And that was not communicated. I think everybody supported the legislation under the guise of it was not going to increase taxes. If you get your tax bill and it hasn't gone up, vote for the other guy because it's going to go up. They had the opportunity to roll back some of these millages. They didn't. They didn't roll them forward. They left them at the same rate. But it's a reassessment year. When you do that, your house is now valued for more. If you're paying the same rate, you're paying more taxes. It's that simple. They give you a number to roll it back. The legislative order gives you that number.
Thank you, Mr. Lassang. Mr. Melvin?
Yes, I think it's very important to be there for our constituents. A councilman is a conduit for the constituent to get information to the right department in the parish, whether it's a nuisance complaint, whether it's garbage, whether it's drainage, whether it's just being there with your boots on, whether it's sewage like I've done in the middle of the night, or whether it's showing up to help sandbag. I believe that communication is vitally important, but you have to not just communicate, you have to be there, be present, let them see you, and they can come knock on your door. Being a councilman is probably the purest form of government there is, because I don't have my senator on speed dial. I don't have my people in Washington on speed dial, okay? They can come knock on our door. We're very local. I also think that communication in this council has been very good. We've gotten along great. They've literally been fistfights in the past, way before our time, but that's nothing to brag about, but it's just, I think we're doing much better now. And also, I want to be able to continue getting along.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. What is your vision for economic development and diversification in our parish? Mr. Araby.
It's like I said earlier, I've been working very active with the economic development lady that we have on staff, and she's doing a great job. We're definitely trying to get a grocery store in our area that we're fighting for. I know people saying that they're going to bring one down. I wish them the best of luck because myself and the administration has been working very hard to try to get that accomplished. And we're also trying to get other type of business. And I agree with all guys. We do need other business in our parish, and we are working on trying to get them down here. But it's just, it don't happen overnight. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some tax breaks. It's going to take communication. It's going to take a little bit of everything to pull together to get some other businesses down here. So again, we are working very hard with our economic developer, and we are definitely trying to get different business to come to our community.
Mr. Bond?
Well, you got John Deere and Thibodaux, you got Bollinger Shipyards, all throughout the South now. You got a couple other little knick-knack companies. You got Rouse's throughout the South. I would like to see some more industry come back. Perhaps maybe an automotive manufacturer or something come in, or a refrigeration company that builds air conditioners or something like that. Predominantly, we are a shipbuilding and farming industry. That's what we have here. We're starting to branch out. You're starting to try to get wind energy going in the Gulf. How long is that going to take? If the precursors of what's to come, it might take 20 years before that happens. We're not as fortunate as the East Coast to have the resources available to us. So we just got to work. That's all we can do is work on it. Give them some tax breaks or something. Thank you.
Mr. Bro?
I know I've said this 100 times tonight, but economic development depends on business development. And we need to take politics out of it. We need to work together as a board. We need to go out into the public and talk to the people and see what type of businesses we need in the area. And we need to make it attractive for those businesses to come to the area. How that's done, we need to work together, and we need to leave the politics out of it. Thank you.
Mr. Zarang?
Would you repeat that question?
Yes, absolutely. What is your vision for economic development and diversification in the parish?
Start off with, we have 4-lane highway coming through our parish. We had, at one time, a railroad track running down the middle. All this has disappeared. You know why has it disappeared? Because nobody wants to work the taxes out. Everybody keeps raising taxes, and these big companies are moving to Terrebonne. Try that for a life.
Mr. Otam?
Yeah, so one of the key factors in economic development is obviously tax reform. I've been fortunate to be able to be part of the tax reform committee and invited into these chambers to deliberate with other key stakeholders throughout our parish, along with the parish president, as well as the people that we engaged to direct us on that. I think it was a phenomenal and unbelievable accomplishment, the first little step that we took. We have a long way to go. The other thing is increasing tourism, get more people here, get more exposure to our parish. How do we do that? We built a once-in-a-lifetime community center in our area, thanks to, on the heels of some miracles like the late, great Reggie Bagala. And we develop our elevated boardwalk, where now we have national attention because we have hummingbirds. So the more exposure we get, more people we bring into our parish, the more people that are going to be interested in investing in our parish. It's really important. My wife and I tried going up to Nova Scotia. Unfortunately, Hurricane Lee hit, but next year we will be up there. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes. So I think if I went to anyone here and looked at their portfolio, right, their stocks, you're not going to have everything in one section. You're going to diversify. You're going to have some in tech. You're going to have some in oil. You're going to have some in Fortune 500, whatever. That's the same thing that needs to happen in Lafourche Parish. You know, we need to diversify our business revenues and business sources. I remember I was a victim of it as well back when the oil prices fell, right? A lot of people got laid off, and you saw that trickle-down effect because all of the businesses were in some way or form in support of that. You know, the oil is great, we need it, but we also need to incentivize small entrepreneurs to get back down here and try to open up new businesses, whether that's tax reform or reductions or some other type of incentive to get investment down here, going out to other parishes or other states and trying to pull those people in here and show them what we can do and what our infrastructure can support.
Ms. Shasa?
Yes, in order to get businesses down in our area, we need to do something to help encourage our school system, our teachers, the better quality pay for our teachers, because it starts there with the families. Getting our recreation centers in shape and our ball fields and improving. You got to have something for the kids in the area, for the families to come in, for the businesses to want to be there to grow your families and your businesses. All that is in place. It's happening. Our ball fields are looking good. Our school systems are getting better with the improvement, including our Head Start, which I've been sitting on the board as a liaison with Head Start. Our Head Start has improved tremendously with our last 2 years having Head Start Teacher of the Year. So I think it's a circle. And you want to get businesses in, you got to help get your schools better, you got to get your recreation in place.
Mr. Guidry.
I think we need to meet with local businesses and see what needs we have for other businesses to move into the parish. We need to invite other people from the outside to come in and see what they have to offer also. With that being said, if they come in, then they're gonna donate to these baseball fields and different things for the children to be involved in. So I think if we get more companies to come into the area, we're gonna all benefit as a whole. Thank you.
Mr. Lorraine.
Yeah, the problem is there's too much millage collected in Lafourche, but every time that you have somebody that comes forward to the council, I ask them, can you take a cut? Not one of them wants to take a cut. It just keeps stacking the money and stacking the money and stacking the money. It's got to come to a head. You know what made this parish in the last 50 years? The shrimping industry. And they're on the verge of being bankruptcy. Shrimp, $1 a pound. I used to get that in '71 when I shrimped. Crabbers, crawfishermen. The federal government needs to step in and help these fishermen because they won't be here much longer. And I can tell you, economic development, you need to get whatever you can to come in, but it's hard to bring industry in Lafourche because the taxes are just too high.
Mr. Sheramy.
Economic development is very important, but to have economic development, we need to have the infrastructure in place, or at least being brought in place to start it. Right now, we have more demolition than improvements that need to be done. Right now, in my district, we have a hospital that is not in operation. We cannot have that. We need to have our proper infrastructure in place for us to have economic improvement. We need to get with our local leaders as well as the local shrimp and fishermen down in the lower part of the parish. We need to get with the Port Commission. We have the vast of a mega port in our midst that we could be using as a resource and not alienating.
Mr. Broomfield.
With all due respect, I think that's a good question for the people because I can give you my opinion, but what if it's not beneficial for what they want or what they need in the communities? I really believe that economic development we need a lot of things. You know, it's not just one answer. How could I ever? I couldn't say it. I mean, I think we should talk to the communities and see what they need in their communities.
Mr. Jones.
Yes, economic development is very important to our parish. We have a Ms. Lumpkins, Christie, that does that, and she does a very good job. And networking is another important issue that economic development. We need to bring in more drilling, recreation, education for our kids. That keep people coming in. We need highways in and out of this parish to bring more jobs here. And a fast way, a speedy way to just mix with the other parish and get together and network with them to bring different industries here. John Deere came in and played a big part. A couple months ago, we gave them a tax break. Performance out of Bayou Blue came with a tax break, which is good for Lafourche Parish. We need more of this.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes, I envision, besides our partners in business and the hospital and Thibodaux and Nichols, I envision the Highway 90 corridor like Houma has coming to Thibodaux and Gray. I would love to see us get some of that Kane property or talk to the Kane farmer who owns it out of New Iberia Lafayette to develop that whole corridor as far as we can go and have rental spaces, businesses. It's a 4-lane. I agree. It really would do well. I think the number one thing that's out of our control is federal regulation. Shrimp pouring into the industry. Shrimp's a big industry. It keeps pouring in from foreign imports. We can't control that because that's the feds. Also, oil and gas. It seems like, like Senator Kennedy said, you have the wrong party in power. There's only so much we can do. But as far as that goes, I think it's like Ronald Reagan says, government isn't the solution, government is the problem. And we need to deregulate and let the free market work, and it's going to work itself out.
Mr. Lasang?
For economic development, you need people. You're not going to build a grocery store if you don't have residents there. The residents need to come because of jobs, and they want to work here, and it needs to be affordable. Taxes being high, we're suffering also right now because the oil field is down. But there are still thousands of people work offshore. We need to bring taxes down, give tax breaks. This council has never voted to reduce one millage, never rolled it back. They stay the same, but your value on your house keeps going up, so your taxes are going up. That's simple. I've worked offshore. I've worked at Port Fourchon. It's a big industry. People, I know dozens of people, personally, that live in Mississippi and work here because they don't want to live here. We need to give some incentive, tax breaks for companies, and reduce the taxes on houses. We're just one of the highest tax parishes in the nation.
Mr. Wendell?
Thank you. I had the opportunity to sit on the team that had negotiations with the largest employer in Lafourche Parish in my district that was planning on moving out of the area and taking several jobs and leaving, blighted property and everything behind. And the parish, their economic development personnel, the parish administration, we made them a great deal with tax breaks and incentives to stay, and we need more of that to be able to hold on to what we truly cherish so that we still have a way of life. We also need to clean up government. I also had the honor and privilege to sit on a board with the rest of the council members where we consolidated some seats for the school board. Just cleaning it up, making government a little bit better to operate, a little bit more efficient, along with lowering the taxes. So, thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
As everyone here alluded to, we have to get the tax situation in this parish under control. We're not going to attract major businesses with the high tax rate in this parish. That's number one. Number two, we have to think outside of the box. For a long time, this parish and this area depended on the oil field and the shrimp industry. We have to think outside of the box and go to places like Nichols University, do some economic development studies. We have state agencies that's already doing a good job with economic studies. We need to get with all of these outside agencies and think outside of the box and come up with plans that create economic strongholds for these companies to come in. We have to entice these companies with something. Taxes will be number one, and then we have to look at infrastructures. We have to get some of these infrastructures in place because right now, even if we brought in major companies, we don't have the infrastructure for these companies. So we really need to think outside of the box and get creative on what we do.
Thank you. How do you plan to make yourself available to your constituents? Mr. Otam?
Thank you. That's an excellent question. I'm sorry. That's an excellent question. So I'll refer back to the famous JFK, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So for 32 years, I've been just immersed in this Lafourche Parish, and in terms of responding as an active firefighter with Lockport Volunteer Fire Department. This building is the EOC. This is where the EOC for this parish. This is the parish seat. So I take that very, very serious, making myself available on a 24-hour basis to respond to any emergency somebody has, whether it's the parish needing a forklift over here, a trailer over here so they can shuttle something over to out where Marathon has a fire, they need somebody down by. So I believe that for me, personally, making myself available is one of the most important parts of being involved in public service. And I do wish we had more volunteers out there like myself. Thank you.
Mr. Zarang?
Well, to start off with, I call you a couple of times, you hand the phone to somebody else. But anyway, he's available.
You want to see the text?
But anyway, this is how it goes.
Well,
I don't need it. Yeah, show me the text where you responded back. Show it. Come on. Show me the phone call that I tried to get a hold of him. He never called me back. I had to get a fireman to call him to answer my question. Ain't that something? But he's available 24 hours, 24/7. Okay? Y'all think about it. It looks like everybody up here got excuses. Got excuses. So, okay, what it says.
How do you plan to make your constituents?
But anyway, where's my phone call? Why I had to text you and you couldn't call me?
How do you plan to make yourself available?
I'll be there 24/7. I'm retired. I have no job. Don't need a job. I raise rabbits. Yep. Y'all want rabbits? I'll be there for y'all.
Thank you.
24/7, no matter what.
Thank you. Ms. Chasson?
Yes, I am available 24/7. My job allows me that. I do run the Cutoff Youth Center, and that job is 24/7 as well. So my phone's always on. I get reached a lot through Facebook messaging, whether we're friends or not. I'm always there. And when a resident calls and says, "I'm sorry to bother you on a Sunday," it's never a bother when someone in your community needs help. I'm there for them.
Mr. Guidry?
I'm also available 24/7. Anytime anybody calls, I'll go out there, see what's the problem, what's going on. I've been, like I said, for about 23 years, been responding to calls and people's needs when they're their worst, you know. And if they call now, it don't matter what time, night, day they need me to go, I will be there. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
Well, I'm going to deviate from predecessors a little. I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to be able to answer that phone call every time you call. But I can guarantee that you will get a call back. And if I don't have an answer for your question, I'm going to go and find one and get it back to you. My job, I'm a safety manager for a bulk storage facility. I'm also head of our ERT team. So I'm constantly getting called out and have to answer phone calls, emergencies, and things of that nature. I will put a phone strictly for my constituents to call. You have my email address, social media, what have you. But you will get a response from me in a timely manner, one way or another.
Mr. Sheremy?
Yes, I'm a father of 3 kids, so obviously my job is always 24/7, 365. I'm a small business owner. I do work outside the parish, but my phones are always on. If you need me, call me. I mean, I'll piggyback off of Mr. Lewis here. I may not always answer, but you will get a call back in a timely manner. And as best of my ability, I will try to get the best answer I can for you. No matter what, if I can help or not, I will do my best for you. That's my promise to you.
Mr. Lorraine?
Yes, I'm on call all the time. I give my number to anybody who wants it. It's on the parish website. It's wherever you want it. I'll give it to you publicly. And everybody that has called me, I have always called them back. But you know what? It's better to go visit them. I take these work orders, I submit it to where it needs to go, and I make copies and I keep them. And I mail one to the constituent, so he or she knows that I'm working on the problem. And then when it gets solved, we get rid of it. So that's the best way to do it. It costs me a stamp, but I don't mind paying for it. And I can tell you this, I've been around for a long time, and hopefully I plan to be around a little longer. Thanks.
Mr. Broomfield?
Well, my phone number is on my campaign sign. My phone number is on my push cards. And I'll just be doing what I've been doing, staying in contact with people and giving people the accessibility to be in contact with me. And just as my brother said, Mr. Lewis said, I may not answer the phone when you call, but I will call you back. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Yes, my phone is on 24/7. I've been on call for my job for many years, 24/7. So if anybody needs to call me, there's numbers on the website. They got my private number. They got a company number. I'm available, and whatever they need, I can get in touch with them if I miss their call and see their needs and get back in touch with them. Not always you're going to resolve the problem, but I sure will be there to help them. Thank you.
Mr. Lasang?
Well, I'll be twice as accessible to constituents because you'll get a parish phone, and I have my own phone, so I'll have no excuses, which I never have. Anybody, and I see people in this audience who've called me frequently, knows that I would answer the phone. You don't always answer the phone. You might be on your phone, but I'll call them right back, not the next day. I went and see 2 drainage issues today in my district. Call me. I went and see. That's really the best thing is a follow-up. But it's simple. Just answer the phone. I don't know, and I'm not going to say anything. I don't know if my opponent does it or not. I know some people do, some people don't. I know Mr. Lorraine has always answered his phone. I know I always answer my phone, and I guess some others do, and I guess some others don't. But I'll be twice as accessible. Thank you.
Mr. Melvin?
Yes, well, I tell you what, I'm not a doctor, but I know what it's like to be on call when I get calls, especially during a hurricane, because that's when it rings the most. I know between Facebook, email, text, I'm boots on the ground in person. I try to show up as much as I can. I'm in sales, so I'm very flexible when someone calls. Even on vacation, unless I'm where I can't be reached, I would leave word with our council secretary, who does such a great job, Ms. Carlene Babin. So I've always deferred to another councilman as well, or if somebody calls me from their district, I'll always refer to that councilman first or council person. So again, with technology today, there's absolutely no excuse whatsoever, unless you're having a crisis or an emergency, to not be in touch with your constituents. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
I will definitely have a dedicated phone line for my constituents. Also, I'll have other sources of communications available for them, but one of my goals is to always respond timely. Thank you.
Mr. Wendell?
Between the sheriff's office and the fire service, I volunteer over 100 hours a month in the community, a lot of boots on the ground time, so I can be found almost anywhere. When my kids started school, I followed them up from kindergarten throughout high school, where they graduated last year, working every public event that the school had, school dances, basketball games, volleyball games, football games. I find being in the community, being accessible to people, is the best bet. You get more interaction that way. You can understand the needs of people a little bit more, and you talk to people and communicate more than you do when they just call with a problem. When you see them on a regular basis, you can have a relationship with them outside of the council role, and I find that helps a lot. I can be reached. I have a parish phone. I have a personal phone. I have a parish email, personal email, as well as the Facebook accounts. I have a council account and a personal account that people text, message, call. Thank you.
Mr. Araby?
Well, I think I've been on 24-hour call all my life. Working for the parish for 37 years, every position I had, I was on 24-hour call. I belong to a local fire department, Raceland Fire Department, for 50-plus years. We get calls out. I'm always going out there to help those guys out. I am president of the Raceland Lions Club, and the motto for the Raceland Lions Club is "We Serve," and I get a lot of calls for the Raceland Lions Club. And my constituents, they call me. They know I'm going to call them back. They leave me a message. If they can't get in touch with me on that phone call, they leave me a message, and I will call them back. I did that when I worked for the parish. I returned calls, and I will continue to return their calls. I ain't got nothing to run from. I'm out in the community. Everybody knows I'm out in the community. They can see me, talk to me anytime they want. Thank you.
Mr. Bond?
Phone call, simple phone call. Like Morris Bart says, one call, that's all. I mean, as simple as that. Just answer the phone, communicate with your constituents. Go out there, visit them, see what their complaint is, why they're calling, and handle it. I believe if you do that and you have transparency with the people, and they'll see that, and it'll work wonders for you. I really do. Thank you.
Mr. Bryant?
In my line of work, this thing is attached to my hip 24/7. But unfortunately, sometimes it takes away from our family time. So like Mr. Lewis said, if I don't answer your call, send me a voicemail or a text message, and I will get back to you in a timely manner. Also, I like to think outside the box a little bit and possibly start having some town halls with my constituents as well.
Last question before we get into your closing statements. There are and this has been brought up several times, there are 66 taxing districts in Lafourche Parish. And we have one of the highest millage and sales tax rates in the state. What are your thoughts and/or concerns? And we'll start off with Ms. Shassel.
Like I said, 4 years ago, we started talking about tax reform, and we did a little bit about it, and we brought it to the voters for them to vote on it. There's still work to be done on those tax reform and millages. We're not the highest, but we are one of the highest, and I do believe that hurts us in the end when we're trying to get businesses into our area. So, yeah, we need to work on it, definitely.
Mr. Guidry?
Yes, we do need to work on tax reform. We need to pretty much stop just talking about it and get on it and start working. Or, you know, that's the only way we'll get businesses in there. Without businesses, we going downhill. We need to have them come in so we can get more stuff within the area and build upon that. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
Yeah, so Lafourche Parish is currently, I think, around 9.4% in our tax rate, sales tax rate. The parish in which I work, Iberville Parish, is around 13%. Now, as I said earlier in the statement, we took in, according to the parish council meeting back in August, around upwards of $20 million in sales taxes. Now, we could talk about tax reform, but again, it goes to where are we spending that money and how efficiently are we spending it? You know, if someone is going to be taxed, show me where my money is going. And that needs to be communicated to the constituency, and that's going to be where, you know, we make our difference and get the faith back of the residents of the parish.
Mr. Lorraine?
Yeah, I said it a minute ago that you have a lot of districts in the parish, but the reason why you have this is the people that live there chose to vote for it or not. There are some areas of the parish that doesn't want to pay a tax, and there are some areas that want to pay a tax. It all depends, and I think the district's tax was working. They fooled with it, they changed it. I think it's a big mistake, but only time will tell. And I said a minute ago, everybody that comes in front of this council when I'm here, I ask them if they would want to reduce their taxes, and I haven't had one tell me yes yet. It has never happened, because they don't want to. I don't care how much money they have in the account. They want to raise more, and that's not what it's for. So I just think that, you know, it's the people's choice. What's good for South might not be good for North. What's good for North might not be good for Central or South. So
thank you.
Let the chips fall where they fall.
Mr. Sheramy?
We are one Lafourche. And as one Lafourche, our taxes need to be for parish-wide. These different taxes and these different areas and everything else, we need to have, I'm in for a flat tax, a tax reduction across the board, and a flat tax where we can actually understand, because a normal person coming in doesn't understand how this is taxed and how that is taxed, and Mr. Lorraine is very versed because he's been here a long time, and I appreciate that. But we need to get it to where we can understand what we're being taxed on and why we're being taxed on it, because it's way too high. I am not just for reform, I am for lowering our taxes, and that is my platform.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. This year, we did a tax reform, and we was able to lower the tax by ½ cent. We brought it to the voters throughout Lafourche Parish. The voters voted on it, they approved it, which was good. We still have work to do on the taxes, but at least there's a start. So in the future, it's committed so we can get together with the administration and come up with another reform and bring it to the people. The people were very well satisfied with the last tax election we had a few months ago, and it was approved. So let's do that again.
Mr. Broomfield?
I tell you what, I have no clue on tax reform, but I do know that nobody up here wants to pay taxes. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Mr. Melvin?
Yes, I think we need to establish a team within the parish and see what we need on some of the boards and what we can cut, but preferably get an outside person who's nonpartisan to run the current numbers, see what we can trim and what we can cut. And there's a difference between trimming and cutting. And I know that there's definitely some room to do that. I just would believe it would take an outside person to run these numbers for us.
Mr. Lasang?
Well, when I was legislative internal auditor hired by this council, I looked at every one of these taxing districts, and we had come up with a plan to fund the jail, which was a good plan. I think the parish would have gone through it until the administration decided they wanted to yank millions of dollars from the library board. Subsequently, the sheriff passed a tax, which was an additional tax. The restructuring it just didn't reduce anything, except now you're going to have a tax because you're going to be paying for your garbage pickup, which is a tax, a fee imposed by government. The definition of a tax is a fee imposed by government on residents. You're going to have an additional tax. We can reduce the taxes. It takes the council to work on it. And I hear everybody saying they want to do it, so let me in there, let some of these guys in there, let's do it.
Mr. Wendell?
You have to have a vested interest, and that's why we have all these boards and commissions, because they represent the districts they serve. We do have a lot of waste with that, and government does need to be cleaned up. If we combine some areas, and I'm not for a parish-wide consolidation of anything, because we've already proven and had to pick up the pieces of that not working. But we can combine some similar districts for boards and commissions in order to clean up government a little bit. I think the council needs a little bit better, to pay a little bit better attention as far as oversight goes of some of the boards and commissions that serve under them. About 3 years ago, some new members of the council were asking some questions to the library board, and several people have said that we've never rolled taxes back or done anything, but the current council did not collect the library millage for 1 year because the library wasn't forthcoming with what they needed that big amount of money for. So there's potential to do some cleanup and have things run a lot smoother. We just need to get to that point.
Mr. Johnson?
You know, the tax issue seems to be one of the #1 issues that's facing this parish, and I don't understand why we don't spend more time talking about it, more time creating plans, more time investigating what we need to do. I do think there's some government waste that we need to address, but I think overall we need to adjust the tax rates. And we're not going to do that by having 1 or 2 meetings each year. We need to form a committee, and we need to have that committee dedicated to investigating and coming up with a plan. We need to spend time dealing with the tax issue. We're not going to move forward as a parish. We're not going to attract businesses as a parish if we don't get this tax situation under control. So I think this needs to be our focus.
Mr. Bond?
Yeah, as all these gentlemen have already said, like I say, I don't say about cutting. You could trim the fat, as they say. But the big issue here is all of these surpluses that we have just laying around. If another one runs short and goes to a deficit, why can't they reach into that fund and loan and pay it back once the revenue's there, instead of saying we're going to raise taxes or add another meal or go up on your meals? As long as the rates stay the way they are, I don't see any businesses wanting to come in. But if you would give them a break, you would bring in more people, giving yourself more revenue that would go towards tax dollars. Give these corporations a break. They'll give their workers bonuses, more money to spend to put back into the communities. That's just some ideas I have. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
I agree with Mr. Melvin. We need to look at outside sources to come in and take a look at our tax system and see where we can trim and cut. And then also, as a board, we need to work together to lower those taxes for the community as a whole.
Mr. Araby?
Again, I am very much in tax reform, and believe in tax reform. Until we can get all the entities that collect taxes in this parish to look at their budget and see where possibly they can tighten their belt up and reduce some of that tax collected, then they could get it back to the council. I know the parish administration has a firm that they had hired that we got this tax deal done the other day, well, a while back, they voted on. But I'm sure they're looking at other tax revenues, where they can cut at right now and make some adjustments. And if it comes to the board, the council, and I'm sitting on this council, I will vote to cut taxes.
Mr. Zarang. I'm sorry? Yeah,
I was the first one, wasn't
you were. No. Not on this one, about the districts.
I don't remember. I thought I was the first one on that one. What's the question?
Okay. There are 66 taxing districts in Lafourche Parish, and we have one of the highest millage rates and sales tax in the state. What are your thoughts or concerns?
The only way we're gonna bring businesses in this community is to, I don't wanna say cut, and we can't afford to borrow money to do it, but we have to trim fat. We have to find places to cut here and there and trim the fat that's being wasted. And that's the only way we can do and make it worthwhile.
Mr. O'Toole.
Yes, ma'am. I won't stutter on this one. I carry this like my Bible, the Home Rule Charter. I have all the property millages right here in front of me from my district. They're that important. Everyone should be well-versed in what those property millages are. We're restricted by the Louisiana legislature in terms of homestead exemption. That homestead exemption allows many people who live in our district that don't pay a whole lot of money into those millages, they get to vote to put a tax on you if you're not homestead exempt. That's part of the problem. Many of these services that are provided, they're provided by a select few for the general population. That's a problem. Homestead exemption is one of the bigger problems that needs to be resolved. I'll also say that we're fortunate that we still have some volunteerism going on out there. Many years ago, 50 years ago, many services were provided by volunteers, like the Lockport Volunteer Fire Department, saving about $500,000 right now to the taxpayers. So I think it's really important that we look at this, but we have to think about homestead exemption. That creates problem by putting a burden on the businesses and your fellow neighbor. Thank you.
And we'll move on to our closing statements. And we begin our closing statements with Mr. Sheremy.
Good evening. My name is Jake Sheremy. I'm candidate number 81 for Council District 9 in Lafourche Parish. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son, I'm a brother, but most importantly, I'm a fellow resident of Lafourche Parish. I'm an NRA member. I'm a member of Knights of Columbus. I'm endorsed by the Lafourche Republican Parish Executive Committee. And I would like to ask for your vote on October 14th. Thank you.
Mr. Lorraine.
Yep, thanks. And these are some of the accomplishments that I was able to get done. East side drainage from East 40th Street to the Britain, $5 million. The best one, or one of the ones I really like, is the brand new bridge and the airport corridor. Parish put $4.5 million, the Port Commission put $4.5 million, the state put $9 million, the federal government put 17, and the parish is gonna maintain the road and the bridge after. Talking about kids, Golametta baseball field for the kids just got turfed, $160,000. Also, we just repaired the Golametta boat launch, $160,000. We are also, as we speak, repairing the Leeville boat launch and putting back the fishing pier in which everybody uses the fishing pier because you can catch some fish. It's being put back as we speak at $1.2 million. Also, the road from Golametta heading to Leeville, the parish put up $1.2 million. And I can continue and continue. But I just want to say that on Saturday, October the 14th, I would appreciate your vote and support number 82. You can't go wrong. God bless you all.
Mr. Broomfield.
I have been serving District 1 for quite some time, just not in the capacity of a politician. I am asking District 1 to vote number 62 to the ballot. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Based on my experience in parish government, My goal is to continue working hard with the people of Lafourche Parish on hurricane protection, drainage in our area, a quicker process for delateric structures, erosion project on Diplomat Way, and better recreation facilities, Heroes Park, and education, and overlaying our roads. I will continue to work closely with the administration in drainage, grant, and recreation for the parish. District 1 still needs someone who is determined. You think about Jerry Jones. Eager, you think about Jerry Jones. Vibrant, you think about Jerry Jones. Open-minded, you think about Jerry Jones. Trustworthy, you think about Jerry Jones. Energetic, you think about Jerry Jones. Dedicated, you think about Jerry Jones. You compromise all this together, you come up with one word, devoted. That's what Jerry Jones is to Lafourche Parish of District 1. I'm asking you to please go out on October the 14th, vote number 63, to remain your councilman. Thank you.
Mr. Lasang.
Well, that's good to see that everybody's on board with reducing taxes. It hasn't been done, but I'll guarantee you next year, when the tax millages come up for renewal, I will be the one to put it on the agenda. I'll put it on. Let's see how you vote then. Don't talk about it. Some of y'all that have been here had a chance. It's not done. You say reduce taxes, you rededicated taxes. Now you're going to take out of the people's pockets with their solid waste. We fully funded solid waste for 20-something years. Now you're going to take the money out of the people's pockets to pay for the solid waste and still paying a tax, but not for solid waste. We reduced the library board. We reduced theirs millages. We eliminated some, I think 5 mills, which now would be over $5 or $6 million. We did it. It can be done, and I'm glad to see that everybody's talking about it. Now it's to see who does it.
Mr. Melvin.
Yes, thank you all for the challenging questions. They're very thought-provoking tonight. I want to say that I helped get a vac truck for the parish that specializes in subsurface drains. We had the Dugas Project Canal, which improved drainage in a large area. I co-sponsored term limits. They're not the answer to everything, but I term limited myself. Also, if somebody needs a hand and it's within my capacity to help, I'll do everything in my power to do so. And if you have a constructive criticism, call me. That's what we're here for. Government officials are not above reproach, and we serve you. And that's important to remember. These chairs are very temporary, okay? We're only going to be here for so long, whether we're voted in, voted out, or if we termed out. Also, to close, I'd like to say that we just strive for excellence for our fellow residents and honor our oath. I think a big thing that's missing in politics, nationwide in government, is people not honoring their oath of office.
Mr. Johnson.
Fresh, new, innovative ideas, Greg Johnson. I have the experience in several different areas: law enforcement, fire department, housing, business owner with $3 million in budgets, church moderator, people's person, volunteerism. I lead by example. I lead by example. And that's the example that I want for a district that I live in. And I ask for your support. Greg Johnson, District 5, Lafourche Parish.
Mr. Wendell.
Thank you. It has been my honor to serve as the parish councilman in District 5 for the last 4 years. And what a 4 years it's been. The first year we were given over 12 named storms that we had to prepare for and deal with. Second year we had COVID-1, COVID-2. We moved into Ida, which we're still recouping from with insurance hurdles and FEMA hurdles. And we were able to do all that while still slowly moving the parish forward with different needs. In our district, we've come a long way with some things. I'm actually the first councilman that served the full term in the last 12 years because of foolishness amongst the board and while on the council. So we're finally able to dig in, get our feet on the ground and make some forward traction. I ask for your support in continuing to be able to do that. I appreciate your vote on the 14th. Thank you.
Mr. Breaux.
I believe what sets me apart from my counterparts is that I'm a great problem solver. Having ownership and leadership roles in multiple businesses throughout my life, I became very, very good at solving problems. And that's what our residents want, right? They want us to solve issues. And I've become very good at that. And so therefore, I think that's what sets me apart. And so I'm asking for your vote on October 14th. Thank you.
Mr. Araby.
I've been a councilman for the last 2 years, a little better than 2 years for District 6. And over the last 2 years, we got a lot accomplished in District 6. Talking about drainage, like I said earlier, we had several outfall canals that needed some cleaning up to do that turn in, and I got several more to turn in. Tall grass complaints, derelict structures. Ida gave us hell, as we all said. We had a bunch of derelict structures before. Now we got triple them out, and we've been tearing them down and knocking them down. Tall grass complaints. I ride all the streets. I see them. I turn them in, and we get them as we get to them. I mean, you're not going to get all of them right away because that's a procedure you got to go by. And I'm only one of 9 councilmen. We all got the same problem. One of the proudest things I am we got taken care of is under the Highway 90 overpass right here. Years before, when you come out there, it was tall grass, this and that, and everything else. People coming off the bridge to visit us, it was always filthy. Working with the administration, the Public Works Department, and the trustees for the Sheriff's Office,
Mr. Ehrman.
we got.
Sorry. Minute's up. Mr. Bond.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and everybody for giving us the opportunity to come up here and speak. I will say this, it's a group effort. It takes everybody, just not people sitting in these chairs. It takes the people sitting out there at them chairs as well. We're here to represent you, so I look at myself as I look at you. If I would be sitting in that seat, we're in this together. It takes a group effort. It takes everybody. The parish is not going to, as I like to say, they're not going to get in the fast lane to do nothing. They take a long time to do things. So the simple things, it would be better for y'all as a community to come together and help your own communities out. Look out for one another like we used to do back in the olden days, as I like to say, like your grandparents used to do. Everybody look out for one another. Crime, same thing. If you look out for one another, community watches, you wouldn't have the issues with crime. So that's all I got. Thank y'all.
Mr. Otel.
Yeah, so let the record reflect that I'm a man of action, not a man of lip service by any means. Along the campaign trail, people asking, why do you continue to push yourself so hard in serving? You know what? It's because I love Lafourche. As much as I love the birthday girl, I love Lafourche. As you hear many veterans say, I'm a prisoner of my experience and my knowledge. So I'm going to serve as long as I can, while I can, as long as I can. I want to end this on our culture, because there hasn't been much talk about our culture. As a lifetime member of the Bayou Lafourche Folklife and Heritage Museum, as a president and co-founder of a festival local here, one of which is La Fête du Mont, which benefits 4 nonprofit organizations that dump their money back into this community. And lastly, as a president and co-founder, along with one of the other members up on this board, of La Fête des Vieux Temps, the Festival of Old Times, preserving our culture. I love donating a pig. You can see an old-fashioned boucherie. October 6, 7, and 8. All you candidates, stay out that shell and come see us right here under the pavilion. Thank you.
Mr. Zarang.
Yeah, I guess we know he don't have no lip talk because he don't call nobody back. But anyway, listen, we've say all the time that transparency, we don't have it. We don't have it. Remember what one councilman just said up here? Y'all don't see what goes on behind the scenes. What you telling me? Listen, I'll be here for everybody. No matter what. No, I don't serve for the fire department. I don't want to get in that way. I sure can't move at my age. So why worry about it? Listen, I'll be here for y'all. Each and every one, not a chosen few.
Mr. Guidry.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate y'all having us out here tonight and giving us this opportunity to come and speak to everyone. If I'm elected, I will do my best to see the parish move forward in a positive direction. I plan to meet with the Business Planning Commission on trying to move businesses into the area and more activities for the children. I'm asking in your support, vote number 79, Carlton Guidry, on the 14th of October. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
I think what's been made perfectly clear up here is that Lafourche Parish has a lot of work to do to get back not only where we were pre-Ida, but to get beyond that, get better. Parish Council, this seat, government as a whole is a service. It has to be treated as such. You need to be beholden and accountable to the people that you represent. You need to show up when they need you and be present and accounted for when they call. If elected, I will do that. I'm asking residents of District 8 to give me that opportunity and that honor to serve you and to be that voice that you can count on that's going to be there when you need it. Thank you.
Ms. Shassaw.
Yes. In my 4 years, we've had COVID. We've had the Z word, Zeta happened before Ida. Zeta loosened us up first, and then Ida hit. And in those 4 years, I feel we still had quite a bit of work that we did get done and were successful in doing. I love my community. I give my all to my community, and that was why I ran in the first place. So I appreciate everyone for being here tonight. I appreciate this forum, and I would appreciate your consideration at the polls on October 14th. Remember, early voting is September 30th through October 7th, excluding Sunday. Thank you.
Great. All right, guys, I think they deserve a round of applause. This concludes our evening in all the forum. We'd like to thank the following: Lafourche Parish for the use of the chamber, Thibodaux Chamber of Commerce, Lafourche Parish of Commerce, the media, which thank y'all so much for attending, the audience. Early voting, I will say it again, early voting starts September 30th to October 7th, and election date is October the 14th. Please exercise your right to vote, and once again, candidates, thank you for putting yourself out there. Good night.